Hope everyone is here now. So let's start the day, guys. A great day. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone from all parts of the world who have registered for the great event happening today. Hope you and your family are doing safe in the COVID times. Our best wishes are with all of you. Today, we are having a lovely and unique event around the emerging technology and innovation in transportation. So if you guys want to know how technology is driving the transportation industry, then you are in the right place. We'll go all over it and give lots of insight to you throughout the day. Along with some great talks, we have a power packed panel discussion themed around innovation in transportation, a new future. I'm sure it will add a flavor and also provide you deep insight into how transportation is getting transformed, driven by emerging technologies. Now, to begin with, let me introduce myself and the company to you. My name is Nitin Naveen, and I will be your host for the day. I'm working here as Vice President Innovation Strategy at AI CoreSpot. Further, I have been joined by my colleague Arvind and Naveen, who will also assist me in keeping the event lively and resolving technical glitches if it comes in between. So, thanks a lot to them for putting in hard work and making this one a huge success. We'll try to provide a seamless experience to all of you so that you can gain maximum output out of the same. Let me provide a brief background to all of you about AI CoreSpot. We started last year backed up by our technology partner Digit7. Our focus is to provide all of you a deep dive in all the sectors wherever technology is there. And every month, the theme is different. Also, we are gaining momentum month on month. Our aim is to be number one AI-driven community in the coming years to follow all over the world so that like-minded people like you can be a part of the same in supporting, growing, and making it a success. We'll continue to do industry-backed webinars, hybrid events. The knowledge repository will be made from reliable data through industry leaders, subject matter experts, thought leaders, and obviously our technology partner, Digit7. We'll enrich the content through videos, blogs, podcasts, digital content, newsletters, anything what we can do to shed light on the ever-evolving industry. Our mission is to serve as a hub for information regarding Industry 4.0 technologies, which includes deep learning, digital twin, AI, ML, AR, VR, IoT, blockchain, robotics, drone, analytics, edge AI, 5G, edge computing, cloud, and so on. Today's event is one series of events which we have planned for this year. It's power-packed with speakers' presentation and panel discussion themed around role of technology in supply chain and firm focus on transportation. There are lots more in store for subsequent months as well, with focus on digital era, retail industry, aviation, and so on. So request all of you to go through our website, aicoresport.io, for future updates. Also, please like our social media handles, which will keep you all updated on everything what we propose to offer in the coming months. Before starting with the day, I would like to highlight few things so that it can set up the tone for the amazing learning and networking day. Hope all of you can see the slide of Digit7, who is our technology partner. In case you are not able to see the bigger screen, you can just click on it. There's a pin option. It will become big. A special mention to Digit7 as they have helped us in understanding our vision and supporting us to create a platform through which we can help achieve our objectives. Their support is immense and they provided us a push to create awareness about emerging technologies in the Industry 4.0 era, especially in the American market. Some introduction about Digit7 to everyone. Innovation is the cornerstone of Digit7. At their company, they create unique platforms and products catering to the Industry 4.0, who is looking out for innovation. Their products are designed to solve real-time problems and are customizable to suit anyone's business. Adding to that, the products which they have can scale up and ease, and your business grows along with this. Further, their associations with trusted brands such as AWS, Azure, IBM, SaaS, Adobe, Salesforce, Sterling Commerce, amongst others, help them constantly upskill practitioners and champion the partner's best delivery methodologies. Professionally, they are associated with Tech Titans, Forbes Technology Council, CompTIA, Richardson IQ, University of Texas Dallas, and more such technology brainpower to leverage their contrasting standpoints and diverse skill sets. In a very short span of time, Digit 7 has created storm in the market with 15 plus patents, which speaks of itself. As one can see, they have four great products mentioned in the slide. I'll quickly touch upon them so that you get a glimpse of that. First one is Digit 7 Digit Shelves, which is IoT-driven shelves. It transforms retail with reliable and accurate on-shelf inventory management system. Second one is Tag Square, which is an AI-powered auto annotator with 80% downsized hands-on work. It's the optimal automation solution suitably designed for all deep learning and computer vision applications, including object recognition, behavior analysis, and facial recognition. The third one is dgrab, which is a tech-driven frictionless cashierless store for a super simplified shopping experience that lets you shop in and out faster. And the beauty is that it's easier and much convenient than online shopping. Fourth one is Digit 7 Fly Robo. It's very interesting for the supply chain industry. It includes autonomous drone with non-GPS warehouse on inventory management at the retailer's end. Amongst all the great features it has, it is designed to fly indoors where GPS is not accessible. One can gain 10 times more impact on inventory counts with smart drone technology while keeping stock of inventory effortlessly. The beauty about all the four products is that they are customizable, cost effective, and can be used in every industry where technology is needed. To get a demo and understand more in depth and details, kindly get in touch with their sales team through their website, which is digit7.io. And I'm sure they will give deep insights into each one of them and resolve your pain points as well. They have a big innovative lab of 15,000 square feet in Richardson, Dallas, Texas. And any one of you who are dropping by can always go to the office and have a look to feel that. Now moving on and coming to our community partner for today. It includes InfoVision, Ascending Consulting, Brambles, GHY International, Airspace, Camcrete, Seva Logistics, and Chicago Consulting, who came together to make this event a success. A special mention to speakers and attendees of the event who registered and came today to achieve their objectives through this forum. At the end of the day, if you gain few things out of this or get to network with each other, then our core objective as a platform will be achieved. Further, if anyone wants to ask questions, they can type in the Q&A section, which is there at the right corner of the menu option. You can type in as and when the speaker speaks, and we'll try to get it answered after each talk or as per the time permitted. There's also a hands button at the bottom of the screen through which you can even raise the hand and come to the stage to ask questions to speakers as well. So this is all. Now I'll quickly go through the agenda and let you all get introduced to the speakers for which you are eagerly waiting for, including their topics. So let me share the screen. Yes. So this is my screen. Hope all of you can see that. You can pin it and you will see in the bigger format. So we are starting at the right time, 9. It's around 5 minutes we are there. So I'll just quickly introduce our first speaker, whose name is Shiva Prakash Nagaraj, Associate Director Digital Innovation from InfoVision. His topic is Technologies Impacting Future Transportation. And we have a great panel discussion for 1 hour. Its topic is Emergent Tech and Innovation in Transportation, a New Future. It's moderated by Mehran from Ascending Consulting. He's the founder and CEO. Then we have Sandeep, who is from Brambles. He's a VP IoT Edge Devices and Solutions. Then we have Mackenzie West from GHY International Marketing Director. And then we have Edward from Airspace Enterprise Director. Then it's a 1 hour panel discussion. At 10:30, we'll have Sean, who is the president in Camcrete. His topic is the impact of emerging technology on the transport system and the role of smart cities. Then we have Daphne Liu, who is head of digitalization and innovation in Seva's logistics. Her topic is Seva's green journey, their green components. Then 11:30, we have Jeffrey, whose partner is Chicago Consulting. His topic is fueling innovation in the supply chain. So I think it's a great topic, great things to just have a look at all the topics. And I'll quickly hand over the stage to our first presenter, Shiva, who is Associate Director Digital Innovation from Infovision. Obviously, he has, as rightly told to you, he has an exciting topic to start with. Technologies impacting future transportation. I'm sure it will set up the flavor for the day. Over to you, Shiva.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for taking your time to join this event. Also, like to thank Nitin for providing this wonderful opportunity to connect with great leaders who are intense with emerging technologies. Let me share my screen.
Yes.
So, everyone able to view my screen?
Perfect.
Yeah. Today, we will talk about technologies impacting future transportation. And the agenda for today is digitization in transportation. We will look into the market insights, digital transformation, and benefits of digital transformation influences transportation, and smart transportation framework. Head first into the market insights. We can see global industry 4.0 market is expecting to reach $160 billion by 2027, which is 16% of annual growth. As of 2021, smart transportation market size was valued at $102 billion and is expected to grow annually 12.7% by 2030. More interestingly, AI market is expected to reach $160 billion, which is 49% increase between 2019 to 2026. Adding on, AI in transportation seems to have $5 billion by 2027 with an annual growth rate of 15%. Clearly, this shows why digitalization is key for this industry. In this rapidly growing digital age, a transportation industry wants to improve better driver and consumer experience with mobile technology, which strengthen the industry as a leader in the logistics and transportation solutions. However, new technologies will reform the business model with digitalization. Innovative technologies will also help in the digitalization. Looking at the technology trends, first we'll talk about Internet of Things. Global IoT market is projected to grow 16% annually by 2027. Let's see few scenarios. IoT reshaping transportation to provide greater safety, more efficient travel, improved vehicle and aircraft maintenance. Dynamic roadside messages signs which display real-time road status, toll rates, lane closures, travel time automatically relayed from sensors. Autonomous vehicles, everybody is experiencing going to experience the autonomous vehicle with the ability to sense their environment, predict the behavior, communicate with other vehicles and their surroundings, and react immediately to real life high scenarios. Video surveillance solutions which feature high resolution CCTV cameras for airport security, including continual monitoring of passport control checkpoints and movement of people and crowds. Let's get into the benefits. Improving the traveler experience with enhanced customer services through accurate communication and information. Increase safety in all ways of transportation through sensor data, tracks everything from anomalies in speed, temperature, equipment condition, even sensors count the number of cars waiting at the intersection. Reduce congestion and energy use through real-time data to react quickly. Vehicle engines auto start stop in signal saves fuel consumption. improve operational performance by proactively monitoring critical infrastructure and reduced cost. This also improves the capacity. Let's look into the few of the challenges. Large IoT systems can contain thousands of devices or sensors. Manually provisioning all of these endpoints is a complex task. Provide a secure environment against cyber attack and data loss is a big challenge. Many devices in IoT system deliver mission critical information that requires a special level of quality of service. Let's move on to the excited augmented reality space. The augmented reality and virtual reality market will grow 37% annually by 2027. Here are some few of the scenarios. Remote repairing and maintenance can offer contextual assistance to drivers and enable simple maintenance jobs to do their own. It also helps mechanics to troubleshoot issues by allowing them to detect defective parts. Immersive technology based mobile apps can offer maintenance details to customers as well as engineers. AR based apps can enable workers to understand their working environment and the factory floor plan and proceed with caution in real time. Even VR is used for testing software by employing technologies like interactive editing, 3D transformation, parallel computation, virtualization, as well as modeling. VR-based demos and immersive trials can offer numerous opportunities for sales and marketing of vehicles in the transport industry. Displaying speed through AR heads-up display is a newly added feature in 2022 cars. Hope you would have experienced the AR heads-up display. Looking at the benefits, continuous optimization of routes with real-time intelligence, the users stay up to date with weather and traffic conditions. It can also help people in deciding their commuting types and simplifying the parking issues, saving fuel and other operating costs by providing complete, accurate data in real time in the case of marine of vehicle systems. With real-time updates from network communications, social media, and other sources can help transport operators stay aware of situations at different places. Let's see few challenges. The primary social challenge is that regular mobile phone is currently a serious distraction for motorists during the drive time, and it causes numerous road accidents. AR application that provides drivers with the directions have both clear benefits and drawbacks as well. AR is still at its nascent stage, though some major brands have begun to realize and leverage its potential as mass media platform. However, the public unawareness of AR is still one of the biggest challenges faced by technology. Let's get into the blockchain market. The blockchain market is expected to grow annually 29% by 2030. The use cases for blockchain are blockchain linked platforms used in public transportations for purchasing tickets or becoming simple. Amtrak has gained 2.3 billion revenue in year of 2016. This enables digital disruption in finance, claims process, and multi-partner business processes. Various emerging technologies such as face recognition, artificial intelligence, and biometrics are used to improve efficiency in performing these processes. Blockchain also enables complex processes including security checks, goods validation, transactions related to traffic, and taxes. Getting into the benefits, the key benefits of blockchain are anything of any value can be transferred and saved safely and confidentially. without unlawful alteration. Transactions are verifiable by vast peer-to-peer global network. Transactions are irreversible, easy to integrate with other technologies like IoT, AI, and AR. Here you go. There are still challenges available. Blockchain is not fully developed or understood. Many analysts warn against adapting blockchain platforms for large scale production since it's complex. This is mainly because blockchain is slow and gets slower every time a ledger is updated and distributed. Although blockchain is more secure than other systems, it's not completely free of hackers. In fact, the secrecy of the technology can occasionally facilitate scammers. Applying the digital language could also monopolize the market and forces consumers to purchase from a singular buyer without even knowing it. This might be dangerous. Pros and cons aside, it's clear that blockchain is disruptive technology. It's a foundational one. Then next, we are going to look into the interesting and the existing one, the unmanned aerial vehicles. The UAV market is expected to grow around 14% by 2030. Let's see few of the scenarios. Indoor drones can be deployed to deliver single items directly to the production line. Recently, you may hear car maker Audi is piloting an indoor drone at its plant for transferring materials. Fast and reliable transportation of medical goods is of life-saving importance. Cargo drones are becoming feasible for high capacity and long range deliverables. Instead of building or bundling goods in trucks or trains according to fixed schedule, cargo drones can transport fewer items more often with more flexibility. Drone inspections of transportation infrastructure happening with airline industries. Here are few benefits. Drones are excellent for taking high quality aerial photographs and videos and collecting vast amounts of imaging data. These high resolution images can be used to create 3D maps and interactive 3D models, which have beneficial uses. Since unmanned aerial vehicles use GPS, they can be programmed and planned accurately to precise the locations. With advance in control technology, most drones can be deployed and operated with relatively minimal experiences. Since its initial stages, there are challenges. Since the widespread use of UAV is relatively new, legislation is still catching up. The Federal Aviation Administration has established certain rules for small unmanned aircraft that apply to commercial and recreational use, but there are still ambiguities. Safety is a primary concern when dealing with drones. To avoid mid-air collisions, UAVs must be programmed with sense and avoid capabilities that match those manned aircraft. One of the most common concerns from public about UAVs is privacy. Drones can collect data and images without drawing attention. Let's move on to the artificial intelligence and machine learning area. Artificial intelligence in transportation market size is anticipated to grow 11 billion by 2027, which is 19.5 annual growth. Let's see few of the scenarios. AI is playing a major role in manufacturing of self-driving vehicles. Power of AI to spread self-driving trucks for reducing the operational cost. Transportational apps are making the best data-driven decisions for reducing waiting time of passengers who book their service. Logistic departments can monitor their vehicles and stay in connection all the time to track their safe aerial to destinations. Create an optimal route to depot for multiple customers while minimizing the road costs and number of vehicles. AI and predictive analytics in transportation is tuning historical data from your transportation management system into data-driven tool for forecasting the number of sales and shipping volumes. Let's see the benefits of AI. Transportation system can navigate through the routes smartly with real-time sensor data like traffic, weather, waiting time, stop maintenance. The AI system can forecast vehicle maintenance with the help of data collected from smart sensors. Using telematic solutions to monitor the vehicles, AI solution will send alerts and notifications to the vehicles to avoid probable hazards. That is a critical use. While traffic congestions are unavoidable, AI can predict the traffic jams and accordingly adjust your path. To advance the productivity and safety of drivers, intelligent driver behavior monitoring apps will be useful. Even would have heard that it would be able to predict the driver when he is in a drowsy state and give alerts to make him attentive. Let's see few of the challenges. Traditional ways cannot be replaced overnight. The whole procedure of adapting a new technology requires sometimes with some skills needed to be acquired. Many companies use artificial intelligence to manage huge data that can have sensitive information. The infrastructure of some countries doesn't support autonomous driving vehicles. Reconstruction and big challenges would be required in the industry. Last but not least, we will see the CV. The global computer vision industry is anticipated to hit annual 16% by 2030. The existing scenarios are vehicle dent and damage detection for processing claims, eye tracking, gaze detection for monitoring the attentiveness and stress levels, 3D cuboid for vehicle detection, automated number plate recognition to identify vehicles in real time, road condition monitorings to detect potholes, icy conditions, flood warnings, etc. Here are the few benefits. The use of computer vision results in easier traffic management. It helps in maintaining a steady flow of traffic, which results in fewer congestions. Another area in which computer vision can be used for smart cities is making use of ambient light detectors in street lights. The use of computer vision for smart cities enables a safe and secure environment for everyone. Here are a few challenges. One of the biggest difficulties of object detection is that an object viewed from different angles may look completely different. Sometimes objects can obscured by other things, which makes it difficult to read the signs and identify these objects. Lighting has a very large influence on the definition of objects. The same object will look different depending on the lighting conditions. Objects that need identified may blend into the background, making it difficult to identify them. Let's move on to the benefits of digital transformation in the transportation industry. Enriching the customer experience, building a new business model with information-driven solutions, digitalize the core operations, develop an internal digital foundation, improving the workflow. Here on the right side, you are seeing the framework and core building blocks. The framework consists of the customer experience, operational process, and business model. And the outer round consists of automation, data, IoT, vision, digital, cybersecurity, AAML, connectivity analytics, automation. All these are the technology enablers. Almost done with my contents. We'll take another minute to say who we are and offerings we provide. We are InfoVision, focus on innovation and digital transformation, providing managed services to Fortune clients across all domains. We have 3,000 plus experts across 12 global locations. Here are our offerings. With domain and technology expertise, we offer traditional and emerging tech solutions, also bridging the techno-functional gap. Innovative products like dgraph, cashierless store, tax square annotation tool, IoT-enabled digital shelves, dglide, the autonomous drone, Blue Armor for security helps operational efficiency in this digital age. Thank you again. Have a wonderful rest of the day.
Thank you, Shiva. Thank you for the lovely presentation and giving an insight onto what is going on in the transportation. It's a lovely, lovely presentation, Shiva. Thanks a lot. So we'll just wait for a couple of minutes in case anybody of in the audience have any questions to ask to Shiva. They can type it in the Q&A section, which is on the right side of the menu option. Also, for the future speakers also who are there in the attendee, please, you can ask the questions in the Q&A section as and when the speaker speaks. So it can be answered at the end of the session and the time can be saved. Yeah. We'll just wait for a few seconds, else we'll start with our discussion. So as I said to you in the early stage, in the panel discussion, we have Mehran, Sandeep, Mackenzie, and Edward to take the stage. We'll just wait for a few seconds. In the meanwhile, our panel members can set up. They can put the video on. They can unmute themselves, and then we can start with the panel discussion. We'll just wait for a few more seconds. In case of any question is there for Shiva. No, thank you, Shiva. Thank you for your lovely presentation. Love to stay connected with you.
Yeah, thank you, Nitin. Yeah, if you have any questions, everyone, just post me in my LinkedIn, or please connect with Nitin so he can direct to me.
Sure. Thank you, Shiva. So we'll have some more time for panel discussion. I think interesting one. So I'll hand it over the stage to Mehran, who is the moderator for the panel discussion. Obviously, he carries lovely experience, guys, 30 years of work experience. I'm amazed by the companies he has served in. Over to you, Mehran. You can start with the proceeding, obviously, what you have done and what throughout your career, and then you can hand it over to the other panel members.
Thank you, Nitin, for making me feel old. I really appreciate it.
Old is always good, Mehran. Means there's nothing which experience, no one can take the experience out of anyone. So hats off to you, please.
I take your word for it. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's great to be here with you all today. As Nitin said, my name is Mehran Ravanpe. I'm the CEO and founder of Ascending Consulting and moderator for this segment of events. A little bit about me. As Nitin said, I've worked for companies such as Dell, Google, Schneider Electric, and Rab Lighting as a supply chain executive for the last 35 years. And now I am helping smaller companies develop, implement, and optimize flexible supply chain through simplification and digitization, and been pretty successful in the last 12 months. Today we are here to discuss emerging technologies and innovation in transportation. And as we heard from Shiva, we continue to see a significant shift and advancement in transportation-related technologies that have and will impact every aspect of our lives as professionals and consumers. Technologies such as hyperloops, hydrogen fuels, drones, connected devices, autonomous vehicles, artificial intelligence, and the list goes on and on. Today with us, we have a handsome-looking, talented, and experienced team of panelists to discuss emerging technologies and innovation in transportation. and we will start with a brief introduction of each panelist, their role, and their companies. Next, I will direct the questions to specific panelists. Of course, other panelists are more than welcome to chime in. Well, let's start with Mackenzie. Mackenzie, would you please start with a brief introduction, please?
Most certainly. Thank you, Marin. Mackenzie West, I'm with GHY International. We're complementary to the transportation space in the sense that we're customs brokers, but very familiar with emerging technology and innovation, and really a dovetail fit to the industry. Spent half my time in Toronto, Canada, and the other half in Columbia, South Carolina, and happy to join everyone here today.
Very nice. Thank you for joining us. Next, Edward, please go for it.
Hello, Edward Robetke. I work for an amazing company called Airspace. We are a time-critical expedited courier that's developed AI and machine learning technology to kind of transform and disrupt the time-critical space. I'm a native Californian, but as you can see here from my background, I'm here in beautiful Dallas, Texas now. So look forward to engaging with these handsome gentlemen, and thanks for having me.
Great. Thank you, Edward. And Sandeep, please make an introduction, please.
Sure, Maran. Hello, everyone. My name is Sandeep Bandel, and I'm with Brambles. My focus is on digital transformation. Brambles is a leader in supply chain logistics. We offer pallet pooling solutions and also the reusable packaging or for unit load equipment. So.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's start with Sandeep. Sandeep, your company, GHY and Airspace, are on the edge of innovation and technology in transportation. Can you please just briefly tell us a bit more about what initiatives you and your company are working on with regards to transportation and logistics?
Yes, so Brambles as the company, it's a large corporation. Our business is in 60 countries. We have a huge scale, and I think the background. Let's just go back. It's we manage a pool of unit load equipments, primarily pallets, crates, and containers. Transportation is big. I think we have to supply pallets to our customers, and with that lens, I think the innovation is on cutting CO2 waste or also on the empty miles. So we have an internal effort trying to reduce empty miles. So this is through collaboration with our customers and declarations on like when we ship our pallets on the trucks. We inform and we try to collaborate with the customer and their customers. So, the transportation is optimized. I think in terms of the reuse of the truck or whether it's empty trucks, how can we work together with customers? So there's a big initiative trying to bring the data at a central point and collaborate with that. So.
Very good. Thank you. Maybe, Edward, can you tell us a little bit? These days we hear the buzzword AI a lot. Maybe you can tell us about what is AI in your words, and then help us talk about what is the most desired around emerging transportation technology. What are the critical features that they are desired there?
Yeah, so great question. So when it comes to AI technology, one of the things, when it comes to logistics, especially time critical, it's been very much a manual process, right? So it's very much find the best route, you find the best price, so what AI has now done, so in the time I've literally spoken this sentence, AI can literally calculate thousands of routes, right? The most optimum route, and provide you with multiple different options in seconds, right? So it affords you an incredible amount of flexibility. And let's be honest, right? Time critical is, I would say it's probably the most stressful part of logistics, right? Because people are calling you need something immediately. So the three features that I see, and I call it, I know it's a word, I call it Uberization, right? like three things you need to have in technology, right? You need to have speed, you need to have transparency, and you need to have simplicity. So if your technology affords very quick decisions, right, it literally provides the client an incredible amount of flexibility when it comes to decision making. Transparency. What's my purview into your solution? How much can I see? Right? We've become, like I said, in Uber, we're literally following the driver. That's the kind of transparency that you need to provide, at least in my opinion, right? When it comes to technology, and then simplicity, right? How easy is it to operate your system? I timed my daughter to input an order. In 3 minutes and 27 seconds, she had an order from grandma and grandpa's house to our house. That tells me that it's very, very simple, right? You don't want to do multiple different trainings. So the three features I touch on is speed. I call it STS, speed, transparency, and simplicity.
Very good. Very good. And as far as you talked about speed, can you talk a little bit more about the transparency part?
Yeah. So especially in time critical, there was no insight into the route, right? So there was no insight until we came along where you could literally follow along with the driver. You literally see the on our platform. I'm not trying to be salesy, but you'll literally see the driver drive to the airport, right? That level of transparency, right, is really what we're going towards. And like I said, I think, Uber started a lot of that where, how much transparency do I have in the service that you're providing? That's a much more, I guess, much more tangible experience if I could see exactly where my time critical shipment is at.
Exactly. Thank you. Mackenzie, I think, we talk about in the last 2 decades or more, e-commerce has been instrumental, obviously, in advancing transportation in general. How will e-commerce push technology and innovation within the cross-border transport?
It's a great question. And Edward, just to piggyback off your comment, it really resonated with me when you said that you had your daughter do the simple test. I think the simple test of taking someone out of industry and pushing them into either new tech or even client experience technology, it really tests whether you can sometimes become so close to something that you think it's simple, yet if you test someone like that, it's a wonderful thing that I truly believe in. So I just wanted to emphasize how awesome that point was. But thank you for the question. I think just the hockey stick curve and growth in e-commerce and what we're seeing with next day delivery, COVID-19 and the accelerated online purchases, how different industry verticals were really pushed through a pandemic to offer different means of purchase. It's a forced technology adaptation. So even the most archaic companies from a process standpoint are pushed into an environment that they're very uncomfortable with. And we're seeing growth, unprecedented growth in industries and companies within the transportation and cross-border space that we would have never dreamed of because of really I don't want to call it a black swan event, because it feels like between the canal delay and the ship being stuck and Brexit, like all these black swan events, COVID-19, like how do we all of a sudden just say, okay, there are these, it's not just a black swan event. All these things are adding up to e-commerce just exploding. And really Amazon changed it when they said, hey, Prime, you get your products the next day. So we're forced to adapt to technology. Where we go with that technology, well, I think it's two-pronged. We're seeing governments with obviously an international supply chain for one, but then we're seeing governments with de minimis rules that are differing around the world, meaning de minimis meaning the amount that an individual or a business can bring in that's duty and tax free. So supply chains and transportation providers are offering different channels. But it goes right into Edward's points of where are we seeing the simplicity? Where are we seeing the transparency? How do we know where these shipments are? And how does the government protect their national security? I mean, there's illegal and forbidden products entering every country through these channels, multi-channel transportation networks, and that transparency is very important. So the governments around the world, their hands are forced to get more transparency on it. And we're seeing in Canada Customs standing up a new system under the CARM initiative. We're seeing CBP constantly review the de minimis threshold and stand up an entry type 86 to gather more data on imports coming into the country through this channel. And then we're seeing technology providers and supply chain providers launch new platforms, whether it's artificial intelligence through classification of products, whether it's a partnership between a transportation company, a warehouse, and a customs broker to facilitate shipments through multi-countries to take advantage of de minimis programs. So we're seeing so many things emerge in a very quick fashion that there is no single answer, and we have to wait for the dust to settle a little bit. But I truly believe this mixture of ingredients that have happened over the last 24 months is one of the big catalysts to change I think we've ever seen in international trade and supply chain, specifically with the e-commerce space. What was maybe a $3 billion is currently a $300 billion marketplace. And many experts say by 2030, it will be conservatively $1 trillion. So it's almost forced. It's almost forced change and innovation. So it's interesting.
I think what you just talked about, I like the terminology, the black swan. I think that's exactly what has happened. And then I think, and I believe that in the next few years, we're going to see exactly the same trajectory, and definitely we need to be prepared and ready for it. So I really appreciate your answers and your comments. Edward, in the supply chain and transportation, customers should always be at the forefront of everything we do. How should companies quantify the customer experience for tech-enabled logistic platforms?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think it comes down to essentially what I said previously, right? So how quick is your platform, right? I always say it's an information war, right? The solution that provides the most information the quickest usually wins, right? If your tech-enabled solution can provide multiple options across multiple different, vehicle platforms in seconds, that is in my opinion, a very appealable solution. When it comes to the transparency, like I said, I already touched on that a little bit as well. But most importantly, the speed. Honestly, the speed is really we are so in a, like I said, an Amazon world, right? Click, boom, click, boom. So I think the speed factor is going to be the most important factor, right? As you move on, right? And especially with supply chain, right? Everything is very disruptive and time critical. It's the level of stress that our clients deal with is incredible, right? So to provide some level of, I guess, peace of mind, I know it's a very kind of vague term, but some level of peace of mind with the simplicity, right? With the speed, with the transparency, I think that really resonates. And I think, honestly, every solution going forward, like tech, I guess, logistical supply chain solution is going to have those three factors, or they're going to get left behind. And like the AR portion is critical, right? Because you need to, if you can calculate thousands of routes in seconds, you have a tremendous advantage over a company that needs to call, email, and your clients have a tremendous advantage over their competitors. So.
Very good. Edward, you talked about speed. I don't want to put you on the spot, but what about accuracy? I mean, being on time, not necessarily getting it there fast, but getting it there when the customer wants it. How do you think about that, and how do you see that play a role?
Yeah, so one of the neat features about AI technology and machine learning is it actually factors in the delivery time, right? So it literally will allocate historical data. So I'll give you an example. If one of our shipments lands in LA at 4 o'clock, obviously we're going to allocate time, right? You can also see with drivers available, our drivers are on app, you can see exactly how many drivers are available on the pickup and delivery side, which enables you to provide a more accurate estimate of delivery time. So that's a very good question. Thank you for asking that. It's not just speed as well, but the accuracy of the delivery and pickup time and quote. We actually provide three things within seconds.
Very good. Very good. Mackenzie, we heard AI, but now we hear blockchain a lot too. So, and people throw that around like water. What is there a viable application for? What are the viable applications of blockchain in supply chain and logistics?
Thanks. Yeah, blockchain is, I think it's a word that many struggle to apply and others struggle to understand. I think a better way to position the term blockchain to garner more interest and application is to say decentralized, because it is really, supply chains at one point became very centralized and dependent on single locations. And I don't want to keep going back to what maybe COVID has done to the last 24 months, but seeing different countries change or have stay-at-home orders. Really, when ports were affected, everything from just outbreaks and shutdowns and even labor disputes, you're seeing the centralization become the challenge. So I think the biggest application could be the decentralization of supply chains, but there is no doubt in my mind that supply chains are ripe for an overhaul via technology. And if you look at what blockchain is in theory, there's an application here that nobody's yet figured out. I think the big case studies we see across large players who invested millions, if not billions, into it is that it's really hard to put to practice. But piggybacking off my first point, like there is no doubt in my mind that if you look at say cryptocurrencies, for example, based off of blockchain as the benchmark or really the bar that's been set of the application for finance, supply chains is the next logical place to go. There are so many parties involved in very important, time-sensitive, costly transactions that really need some ledger to hold the history. There's accountability, transparency. I'm almost echoing what Edward's saying about his solution, but I mean, if you paint a broad brush across the globe, we need that, and we need this place for it to live. How do we bring thousands of companies up to this speed? Well, hopefully it's just a timing thing, and we see some disruption with a few major players, but I think just decentralizing, I think companies are slowly starting to use different locations to not only have timely deliveries from a warehousing perspective, like how do I get it to your house tomorrow, but also how do I decentralize maybe not only the way I was shipping, but the way I'm storing my shipping information. So like how would Sandeep and I communicate, or Edward and I communicate, or even Sandeep and Edward communicate in the same place where we can all see it? It's in the theory that we're all three parties privy to the transaction, right? So I think we got a long way to go. I think we'll all be happy when we have some clarity on what the term blockchain actually means to us. But I'm bullish on the application for sure.
Definitely. I really appreciate the explanation and simplifying. The people try to complicate and make these things very complex. And it is, not to undermine it. I think it's very complex to build it. But I think that the idea here is what you just said, being able to share transparency, being able to get the information fast and reliable in a secure way. So I do appreciate that. Sandeep, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you talked about some of the innovation and technology in transportation, but there are other innovations. I was just going through your website, company website. Maybe you can talk about maybe like the Zero Waste World Program, some of those initiatives that actually drive beyond just speed and accuracy of product, but actually, helping our environment, helping our communities that we live.
Yeah, sure. I think we are big on sustainability, and if you look at the business model company has, which is the reuse of our pallets, so that itself is a part of it's like a circular economy. So we use customer use pallets, and then we kind of repair them if needed and ship them again. So the whole model of reuse of the pallets, it's makes the company, highly sustainable. Now, in terms of, beyond what we do in transportation, I think there is a big effort, in terms of how do we innovate in our business. And I think one of the key things we look at is, we have pallets, and if we can track our pallets, there's a lot of visibility that we can offer in the supply chain. And Brambles as a company, we almost, supply pallets to all verticals, whether it's FMCGs, fast moving consumer goods, beverage, retail, or fresh produce. So I think the innovation, what we are trying to do is to see, look at things from a technology lens, and trying to build solutions and help our customers, innovate with kind of, offering services, digital services that could enable, solutions or new business models for them. So.
Very good. Thank you. I think, I was very impressed going through the company website and just looking at the efforts that's there. It just, all three companies, it's just unbelievable how not only, it's all about execution, but it's about how we give back to our communities. And you guys are doing an amazing job. So on the topic of sustainability, obviously sustainability is no longer a nice thing to have, but a requirement in our industry. What are the impacts of these emerging technologies? We heard from Sandeep, maybe Edward and Mackenzie, maybe you guys can talk about what are these technologies that you talked about, how are they going to affect our environment?
Yeah, I'll go if you don't mind. Mackenzie, you can go or next. So one of the things that I think when it comes to the environment, right? So how we got part of our genesis was we do a lot of organ procurement, right? So we literally have a sign how many lives we saved, which is obviously very impactful, right? That's one of the things about I think that is missed on technology is how impactful is it. Not just from a consumer perspective, right? How is it impactful to the users, right? To your drivers, right? The people that are actually using the technology, not just customer facing, also on the back end, right? I think that's a way, at least for us, aerospace, for us to be impactful. And I would also say is when it comes to the technology, it's I posted on LinkedIn probably about a month ago, where a client was telling me, "You don't understand how many jobs that you've saved, right?" Like, if you could imagine how, very few times in your career does that happen. So those sorts of things tells me that the technology, at least that we're formulating, is impactful, right? So I guess you can add to that, Mackenzie, if you like.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm glad you took it away first, because being complementary to transportation and not actually moving freight, but helping clear it into countries as customs brokers, our impact is really human. Like one of the biggest and neatest initiatives we talk to when it comes to sustainability is going paperless and not needing printers. If you think of customs brokers in the 90s or 2000s or anytime really before the last 10 years or so, everything was printed, like stacks and stacks of paper everywhere. And it seems little in comparison to talking about emissions and really what Sandeep and Brambles are doing on a scale standpoint. But it's relevant, like being able to take optical recognition software and map data into our system rather than printing and keying. Not only is it saving a piece of paper and a stack of paper, it's creating efficiencies and allowing minds to do different work outside of data entry. But the collaboration between partners, transportation companies, consultants, importers, warehouses, it can be done digitally rather than faxed or printed or kind of done in different ways. So I know it's all recyclable material and it's a very small impact in comparison to what we're talking about earlier, but it's really all we have in the customs brokerage space, where we're truly sitting behind desks, I guess, not physically moving free.
No, I think every effort counts, right? It doesn't matter how big or small, just the fact that we are thinking about it and we are actually contributing to it, that matters the most.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the critical part. Sandeep, you want to add anything else? I know you talked about what your company does, but what are your thoughts in
Yeah, I
general?
think zero waste is a broad term, but it can apply to like some of our, as I was saying, a large segment of our customers are in fresh produce. So I think if we can give them methods so that the less food is wasted, because of, is it cold chain or is it, for many other reasons. I think that all adds up to, zero waste. And it's just thinking bigger, like, less things going to the landfill, whether it's just anything, whether it's food produce or, any material, like, the way company operates, Brambles specifically, is we reuse our pallets, I think. So, and so, things don't go to landfill after one time, or the packaging broadly doesn't go to landfill. So bigger picture, I think, and we are always innovating in this and trying to see, what more can we do, and looking at always like some of these AI and other technologies, how can we innovate? I think is still, I would say, in early cycle. There's more the company can do, and beyond, like, not just Brambles, many other companies are thinking in the same direction. So it's more of a collaboration, and rather than just one company, trying to achieve it. But I think this is definitely the right path, and I believe that it going forward, it's going to be much more helpful for the company and the planets and everybody. So.
Yes, thank you very much. The sustainability is obviously one of my passions, as you can tell, and then my second passion is around people. Obviously, we've seen the workforce dynamic continue to change globally faster than ever, and just want to see, how do you see some of these emerging technologies, and especially transportation, impact the workforce and the work environment? Any of you? Don't.
I'll jump in there and take it, because I think it piggybacks off the comment I was making before around how using technology to load information rather than having humans keying basic information. I think that gives everybody, our president has made in his town halls a very strong statement that this isn't about the reduction of associates. This is about the application and use of associates. So if we're not having our associates key data, essentially copying from a page to a screen, those minds can be used in stronger ways to audit and classify and understand and ensure compliance, and that really there aren't delays. So the application of the individual is in much more of a growth mindset, continual education, rather than keying data. So if we can continue to leverage artificial intelligence to train bots to applications of loading data and taking from flat files and putting into a system and auditing that, it's, I think, a more enjoyable work experience than data. So It is not about the reduction of people. It's really about the use and application of where and how people are used. And myself, and I think many people are like this, you're always trying to really replace yourself in your current role to further expand and do something else. And without a clear path to that, sometimes it's challenging. And I think technology gives us a little bit of that clear path. No matter what your role in any organization, if you can figure out how to work smarter and be more efficient and adapt technology, there's a million little things. It can be very simple or it can be very complex. So there's no limits to it.
I agree. Sandeep, do you have any comments, any additions?
Yeah. No, I think McKinsey, said it right. I think it's, bots, we should look at them like they don't displace any workforce, but I think that workforce can be well used for, they just for repurposing the workforce, right? So I think, in my opinion, if from transportation and beyond, like if we have autonomous forklifts that are, helping in the, the load operations, or but those people, it shouldn't be looked as like, oh, it's displacing some work. But I always believe that there is always new work would be created, and which is much more purposeful for any individual.
Yeah, and I would add to that too. That's one of the challenges that you have when you have a revolutionary technology or technology that's disrupting, in my opinion, is that is a challenge that you kind of have to fight, right? People think that this is, you can see the look on their face when you're showing this is going to take my job. And you have to basically say, and the two things I always like to stress, right, when you're talking to a client or a company, what problem are you solving? How are you making their lives easier, right? So you have to, those are two fundamental things that you want to touch on, especially and demonstrating your technology or AI, whatever platform you have, demonstrating this is really going to make your life much easier and you're going to become much more efficient.
I agree. I think not only efficiency, and I'm thinking more also what you talked about, accuracy and speed. It allows our workforce and employees to become faster, but in a very safe manner. I think that's the part that I see always, is how all this going to help not only make the job better, but safer, and obviously a fun place to be. Great. I know this question Mackenzie is going to love. Transportation and regulation go hand in hand, obviously. What are the roles of regulations and regulators in expediting these emerging technologies? We talk about, typically, without getting political, but about hindrance of regulation. But what do you see in terms of how do some of these regulations are going to help expedite these emerging technologies? Mackenzie?
I'm thinking where to start. You're right. This is you teed this one up perfectly. It's right in my wheelhouse. And it goes back to how I was talking about customs in many different countries and how they're adapting. What I was trying to think through is how to lay this out in easy to understand terms, but it's forced adoption. Like, I think in many cases, governments are scrambling to keep up. So maybe sometimes, I think with disruption, you're breaking through walls and you're creating and living outside the lines of typical framework, and governments are so used to linear paths forward, achieving milestones in ABCD type methodology, that when Edward steps in at F and they're only at B, they don't know how to get from B to F quickly. So it's a reactive approach where sometimes the decision making doesn't align with where industry's at. I don't think we're there yet, and I don't have an example of that in supply chains or technology. But I'll speak for a second into Canadian regulation with CARM, CARM being CBSA, which is Canada's customs, So Canada Customs has launched this assessment and revenue management program. It's called CARM. It was supposed to formally launch in the spring of this year, and it's been delayed until the spring of next year, possibly the fall of next year. We don't know that for sure. We just know rumblings. There's been no formality to it, but I think that's a key example of, okay, customs needs more transparency into importation data because e-commerce and shipment volumes and changing supply chains have just grown beyond belief. So, okay, if we're going to keep on top of what's coming into our country and ensure that we're collecting the appropriate taxes and duties, we need more information into that. Well, standing up a program to oversee millions and billions of shipments it's challenging. And in the same vein, we've seen CBP launch entry type 86, which is essentially trying to gather very minimal data elements on de minimis shipments. So again, those de minimis shipments are low value shipments, anything under $800 coming into the US. It's duty and tax free, but they flow through with very limited data. So US Customs, it's in their best interest to gather that data. So standing up the entry type 86 program was a big win, but a very reactive win. And what I think they're struggling now to roll out is how do we actually facilitate all of these transactions through this program? Because it's not turned on yet to handle all shipments. It's only turned on to handle maybe shipments that are overseen by the Food and Drug Administration per se, or other participating government agencies. So I think my point is to it, we need to be maybe a little more proactive. I mean, if any of us had a crystal ball here, we probably wouldn't be on this panel today. We'd be doing something else. But it's hard to see the future, and I think the constraints of budgets and political parties seeing different interests, it becomes difficult for that proactive change to happen. But we're in right now a very vital time where it's a little bit of cat and mouse of like, hey, someone's got to get in front of this and really just make a decision to say, okay, we're going in this direction. And hopefully the rest of the world will follow suit, because I don't think there's a country out there yet that has a true pulse, definitely from the cross-border trade standpoint, on how are we going to handle e-commerce and the growth.
Right, exactly. Edward, your thoughts?
Yeah, so it's a very, very interesting point when it comes to, I mean, even here, and I've been in logistics for 4 years, and I will tell you, even state to state regulations are different, right? Moving from California to Texas, obviously politically a little different, but even the regulations in state are much different, right? And I think when it comes to being reactive, I think that's just a function of government, right? I think it'd be amazing if they're proactive, but you're right. And I think there's another element to this as well. We're adding regulations, and honestly, since COVID, I mean, every client I have, their team is down, right? So they're down. They have less headcount, and you're going to stack on additional regulations, which is a challenge, right? So I think in that situation, you almost have to, you have to put on your teacher hat and kind of guide them on how to handle it, especially if you hear stuff, right? So you're going to hear, if you work at a logistics company, you're going to hear about those regulations typically before the client. So
makes sense. Sandeep, do you have any comments?
Well, I'm not an expert subject matter expert on regulation, but I would say broadly, regulations, like as new technologies come, the government, it's more of a reactive thing to regulate, and sometimes the regulatory bodies could over-regulate that can hinder innovation. So, we have examples like on blockchain or many other things, AI, computer vision. So I would say, broadly speaking, regulations are important, but there should be a balance. And I believe as the world evolves in transportation, whether it's a driverless truck or autonomous or semi-autonomous, so I think there's still a lot of debate going on in terms of, there's ethical AI, and a lot of other debates are propping up in the industry. So, but I would say it's, regulatory bodies they always take a holistic approach, and what needs to be regulated to what extent. But Mehran, I don't have any specific answer for you.
That's okay. That's all right. You don't have to.
I just want to open the
You
thought
don't have to.
process, and how people think. And
I understand. No, I just want to give you an opportunity to give your point of view, and I do appreciate it. And next question, Edward. This one I will start with you, but then I will move on to the rest of the panel as well. Not all. I like to say this phrase: not all companies are created equal. How would a company actually embark on selecting and driving the right technology or the technology partner? Where do they start? How do they assess suitability of what you want? I've worked for bigger companies and smaller companies, and not, again, what was good for one big company is definitely not good for a smaller company or vice versa. And how do you help companies look at the ROI calculation and the benefits of some of the stuff that we have talked about?
Yeah, great question. One of the things that we are very big on here, right, is we have not to get salesy, but I think this is actually the first company I've been in logistics where we actually set up a customer success team, right, where we get data, we ensure that we have proper coverage, we ensure that the user experience, right, we want to provide the best experience possible, right? And one of the things that you have to do, that you have to develop, you have to come up with metrics that are mutual, right? That before you start doing anything, if we meet these, you come up with mutual symbiotic, what we call symbiotic metrics for success, right? And I think that's always very kind of, I would say, fluid, right? Because they could change. But when it comes to the right fit, it's all about identifying kind of what the issue is, right? What's the problem? One of the first things I always like to ask potential customers is like, what compelled you? Like, just talk to me. Like, what is going on? Because your technology is not going to be a fit for everybody. And if you try to, input a ball into a square peg, obviously it's a bad experience for you, bad experience for them. So I think, how do you ensure that you're the right fit? Due diligence, right, is critical. Data is another thing. And then also trying to fully understand and coming up with some metrics that are basically achievable, that are, like I said, come up collectively, I guess, collectively. And QBRs are another thing as well. So not just benefiting. I always ask, okay, how's your supplier index scores? It's not just us. Like, how have we affected, if you're supplying OEMs, how have we helped that relationship? It's taken not even just your technology. How has your technology had an effect down, what we call downstream, right? So to the OEM that you're providing. So I guess that would be my answer as far as determining if it's a right fit or not. So due diligence and ensuring that the problem they have, you can fix.
Very good. Thank you. That makes sense. Sandeep, do you have any comments about, if you had your own company, how would you go about figuring out?
I would resonate what Edward said. I think you look with the lens of the problem you're trying to solve, and then identify what is the right technology, rather than taking a technology and trying to see where can I fit. So that always, that's the view we have. And of course, there are many ways to solve. I think as new technologies come, right? Oh, I can solve this way, that way, but what is the right fit? And the fit is, you look at like, okay, can I scale with this? Is it the right cost for the company? So there are many other metrics you look at. And it's all about the fit. It's kind of like, for a particular problem. So we should start with the problem and then look at technologies, and you have to experiment, and you have to see whether it can fit. Especially for a company like Brambles, we try to see, does it fit for our scale, and is it the most efficient way to do so? Does it fit across regions? Is it limited to this region, or can I deploy it globally? So those are many other factors we consider.
I agree. Mackenzie?
Yeah, I think that something you said in teeing up the question the first time was that there are no silver bullets, and there's no single strategies to success here. I mean, every company's got different data availability, different requirements, and like Sandeep was saying, a different lens to see success through, identifying those problems and laying them out. And I think had you asked me 3 years ago, I would have been, hey, there's one channel to success and it's digitization. But there's really two sets of framework to look at through the implicit and the explicit. And the explicit's very easy to measure, oftentimes tied back to dollars or efficiencies through a key performance metric. It's the implicit ones that become very much more difficult to measure. But I think those implicits can be addressed by offering a multi-channel. So multi-channel being, hey, you could go self-serve per se in an online client experience, but if there isn't someone behind it to answer the phone, which maybe is a faster solution to get to a technical answer, then is that really getting you any further ahead? So really, I think working through a needs assessment, understanding, okay, what are the major criteria points or problems we're solving and how to address them. I love how Edward teed up at the very beginning the framework of simple, transparent, and really how do we take and scale at the end to try and find more, to try and find that silver bullet, right? But it'll never be there. Everybody's got different operating systems, different needs. If there was really one question I'd ask if I were interviewing a supplier is like, what are your development capabilities? What is your proprietary technology? What does that look like from data ingestion? So how are you receiving data and how are you sending data back? Because there are some pieces of technology that work really well, but if you're developing anything proprietary for your own system, it usually means you can accept a variety of different file formats. So I really want to know your developmental capabilities. What are they? What is proprietary to you? Teach me. Yeah, that would be where I'd start.
Yeah,
I agree.
If it's proprietary too, to Mackenzie's point, if it's proprietary, you typically have a lot more flexibility on tailoring the technology or the solution to the client, right? If it's proprietary that you develop, that's a very good point. You have a lot more flexibility on adapting to the client. So that's a very good point.
I agree with all the comments. One of the things that I tend to find out, especially working with the smaller companies, is that they really want to be like the big companies. And what happens is they come up with, we want to have the same bells and whistles of the bigger companies, which is great, but that's not a problem. But most often what I find is the fact that it's the process that needs to be fixed first. Fix the process, assess the process, figure out what the process is, and then bring these technology and what happens is that they go straight to the technology without really understanding where the process is broken. I think for me, the key when you start looking at any kind of implementation of technology is, what is your process? How does that process, especially like planning or transportation, first fix the process, really understand what the customers want, simplify your process, and then go digitization. And like you all said, I think then you got to figure out this specifically in terms of proprietary software and how do what the elements are, how does it work? That becomes a key. But I think the more basic one for me is always like, what is your process? Fix your process, and then go start the new technology. Very good. Maybe I will start this one with Mackenzie. These days, for obvious reasons, we hear a lot about resilient supply chain. Everybody's like resilient. Can you provide a specific example of like correlation between successful implementation of a technology and the resilient supply chain? Something that you guys have working on, that can show that actually there is a correlation. If you have these technologies that we're talking about, actually help us have a resilient supply chain?
Yeah, resiliency is of utmost importance when it becomes your supply chain. And I think that's a direct correlation to contingency planning. And what do you do in the event of a failure or a disruption or a port delay? I think we're seeing congestion at levels unprecedented levels. So how are you working with partners to better route freight to countries? It's whether it's on the export or the import side, there's the cargo management's never been of more need. So I think one of the most one of the most valuable is how we've integrated with partners. Partners being carriers, transportation carriers. So the importers that we serve to facilitate trade into countries. Seeing those delays and oftentimes outlaying fees and storage charges emerges on behalf of international shipments that are delayed at port. We accepting data electronically from carriers and partners have been able to help those transportation companies better forecast what's coming, where it's coming, what the true landed cost is, and how to facilitate the shipments quicker so that we're mitigating the delays, identifying maybe the problematic products from a release standpoint or missing information in advance. Living in a traditional paper-based environment, you're often left to the mercy of reactivity to whatever may happen or not happen, and missing information it's what stops everything. So being able to integrate with a carrier and accept data in an electronic format and have things pre-cleared or understood, and then leaning on, okay, what you know is different than what we know. How do we put our heads together to ensure our mutual client success is really where we've seen a lot of positive feedback.
Edward, your thoughts?
Yeah, I would say I would even take it a step further, right? One of the advantages you have, what I call Uberization, I know it's not really a word, but one of the advantages that you have if you have drivers on app, right, you're essentially getting constant data points, right? So instead of a carrier, McKinsey's example, instead of a carrier calling you, you can be notified. Machine learning and AI can actually notify you instantly if a driver's at a certain spot for, say, 30 minutes or 20 minutes. Or that's one of the beauties, I think, when it comes to those are the things that you can't replicate, right? A person can't replicate, and continuously adding those data points to make the client experience much better, right? It's a much better experience calling the client saying, hey, we're going to have a delay before they even know, as opposed to them calling you and saying, hey, why is my shipment delayed? So that's, I would even take it a step further from that. But I like Mackenzie's example. I just think you can, with certain technologies, if your drivers are on app, you can actually get that information instantaneously.
Great. Sandeep?
Yeah, I think I would add that, with the recent disruptions in supply chain, we hear a lot about resiliency in supply chain. It's fundamentally, how can we de-risk? And, from my view, I do a lot of electronics manufacturing, and I think semiconductor supply chains have been in news a lot, I think, and that's for many reasons. I think there was a demand imbalance initially, then suddenly there was a supply shock. So I think how to de-risk it. It's, of course, there are many people who have different views. Where to source differently or many other things. I'm putting a lens purely on the semiconductor side. So yeah, I think it is important, but around there, the call for resiliency is critical. It is but I don't really know how to solve it. I think it's better sourcing or de-risking or going layer 1, layer 2 de-risking. That's how to approach it, especially in electronics. Of course, there is a lot of geopolitical bias also engaged in this, and it's tough to really figure everything out. Yeah.
Yeah, if any of us knew how to solve it, then there won't be any need for any of us. So that I do appreciate your answers. I basically don't have any other questions. What I like to do is maybe starting with Edward, then Mackenzie and Sandeep, give you all an opportunity of a couple of minutes to have a closing statement and anything you want to add that was not in the questions. Edward, please go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, thank you guys for putting this together. Honestly, very, very much appreciated. And it's awesome that we all come from different backgrounds as far as in the supply chain. So I would say when it comes to this discussion, it just kind of reaffirms what I already know, that we're actually going, that emerging technology is kind of the way of the future. It just depends on how quickly everybody else, catches up. But this conversation, this discussion has reaffirmed that in my mind, that we are going to be going towards technology and getting away from paperless. So, and again, thank you guys for the discussion. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Mackenzie?
I would echo Edward in saying thank you. It's wonderful to be surrounded with like-minded people, and I'm a big believer. If you're the dumbest person in the room, you're learning, and that's how I feel today. So fortunate to be here. I love this collaboration, and I think for the audience and even myself, what I try and tell myself is that technology and innovation, it feels overwhelming at times, but it's often something very simple and small that starts it all. So just solving a problem and thinking through the application and what it means to me, it often helps my mind wrap around the complexity of it all. So you can think big, but stay practical and small, and it turns into something very different and will help your organization.
Very good. Sandeep?
Yeah, Mehran, again, I thank you for the opportunity to be a part of the panel. I think it was really interesting discussion, and we share different viewpoints, I think, because of what backgrounds and industries we come from. No, I'm very impressive to see how technologies are changing things, and that's all I would say. And we covered a lot today, so really impressive.
Very nice. So we have actually a few minutes for Q&A. So I have one question here. I don't know, Nitin, you want to read it or you want me to read it?
Please, Mehran, carry on.
I will. Don't be careful what you ask for. So the question is, how does drone delivery fit into current standard logistics and transportation models? Any of you want to answer that?
I'll be fully honest. I don't know, because I think that there's an FAA component to that I'm not really aware of. But I think it's going to be feasible at some point, right? I just think when it comes to the regulations, when it comes to airplanes or I think there's some stuff to work out, and it also depends on what's the geographic area of these drones, right? So I don't know if anybody else wants to add. I haven't given that much thought, to be completely honest.
I'm no expert in it either, but I think it's a big application. I think a few companies have tried to stand up something from a beta perspective and been knocked back. Kind of to the regulatory question that we answered earlier, it becomes difficult to overcome the barriers and really where does public safety fit into it all? So we're have a lot of competing interests in order to stand up a solution in that space. But there isn't really a reason why it won't continue to be explored. So I'm with Edward. The future is, there's probably something there, but we've got to see a real big shift in thinking and protect really individual safety before we're going to see packages flying around by drone. But I will say more and more often than not, I see drones flying around our neighborhood all the time. And I don't know if it's kids in their backyard or we're seeing change. And if it's even on the recreational level, then eventually business will take advantage of an efficiency. So my forecast says it will happen. When? Don't know.
Sandeep, do you have any thoughts on this?
No comments on this, but it's just, it is it is important. I think it definitely helps in remote areas. I think from fulfillment perspective, and definitely regulations around FAA and are definitely needed from a safety lens. So.
I agree. I think there are three components that I see, and as I read the question, one is obviously the technology itself. How it's going to evolve. I've seen the military use of it. We have seen some transportation use of it by UPS and Amazon and others that we're seeing that they're using it, but in a pilot mode. And obviously, you all talked about the regulation piece of it. It's a question of privacy. It's a question of FAA, a whole bunch of other regulations that needs to be addressed. And then the last one is the application of it. Is it the range, like I think I heard being said, is this for parcel? Is it going to be for containers? How is this going to be applicable in different environments and industries? For now, I have one sitting in my backyard, and I use it all the time to take pictures of the backyard. So absolutely. Any other questions? I don't see. Let me see if I see any questions. No questions. Come on, we gotta have questions. This crew is like waiting.
I think you all guys answered all.
I don't know. Well, Nitin, I guess if there are no other questions, sure. I personally would like to obviously thank you, Nitin, for coordinating and arranging, setting up this session. I definitely would love to thank all of our panelists for being here today, for putting up with me and my crazy questions and awesome answers. And thank you so much. Thank you. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mehran. Thank you for moderating this panel discussion in the best possible way. And thank you all panelists, Sandeep, Mackenzie, Mehran. I think it was a lovely, lovely discussion which we witnessed just now. So one question from Maria, just a side question which can be answered here in the chat. No issues, I can answer here itself, Maria. Will a recording be distributed after this session is over? So Maria, I think you missed on my speech, which I gave in the beginning. So this event is recorded live on our YouTube and the Facebook channel. So this will be available on our YouTube page. So as the event is over, you can obviously like our social media channel and handles. You will be able to see this recording anytime. Hope this answers your question. So thank you. We'll quickly move on to our next presenter, Sean, who is the president in Concrete. His topic is the impact of emerging technology on the transport system and the role of smart cities. Sean is here now.
Great, how's it going?
I know it was a 1-hour panel discussion, which sometimes keep you absorbed in what is going on. So over to you, Sean, to take the conversation forward. Thank you.
All right, great. Well, hey there, everybody. My name is Sean Malasan with Camcrete. That was a great panel discussion. I had a lot of questions. I just didn't want to chime in since I was speaking next. So to start off, a lot of things that they touched on, and especially I don't know who exactly said it. They said they were talking about the processes and bringing in tech, especially with these big companies being involved. And I think that was a really, really good point, because I think it comes down to innovation, right? And when you innovate, you need to understand materials, but you also have to be very creative. And I think it's about collaborating. I recently wrote another paper about how to cross-pollinate in different industries, and I believe that that's a big part of success moving forward because I'll give you an example. The health industry studies the aviation industry. Behind me right here, you'll see this video playing. There's a two-dimensional drawing that an artist did, and he has some automotive experience, and I did a 3D representation of it because I saw the framework on how I believe future cars and everything will be, because I don't think we need panels. And when I'm talking about panels, I'm talking about the exterior shell of a vehicle. The advancement of materials, going back to that, I don't think we've caught up with. It's kind of like software is way beyond hardware right now, right? And so when we think about all that, I think we've suppressed innovation over the years. And I think that we need to, these smaller companies, it would be great to have them focus on that, because he was right. If you go in and you spend all this time implementing all this tech and everything, the companies already have that. It's about creating something and solving those problems. That's where they need the assistance with. So this isn't going to be my speech or whatever is going to be. I would like to see questions, audience. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a few videos and show you guys some of the things that I've been working on, some of the things that Camcrete is doing, and each one of these little videos is about 1.5 minutes. And so this will be a little bit of a change up, and hope you enjoy. I'll try to talk through some of it. Let me share. Natine, help me out here. Oh, I'm going to share my screen.
So there's a present option in the John. Yeah.
Right there.
Yes.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So when they were talking about drones, the FAA and a lot of these drone companies, actually, that's one of the other reasons why we moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, because North Carolina is on the forefront. But this is one of the things we had. This is an underground package and mail container system. But so it'll accept the packages and mail. But I started looking at it, and I'm like, well, and this has already been kind of thought of, but a defibrillator on the bottom of the drone, so it could launch and go save somebody's life immediately. With that being said, with smart cities in the future, and that's about transportation, everything, it's more about limiting transportation, right? And so if we were to have in our neighborhood, if we did some sort of other energy source to where the ship safe could actually say daisy chain the energy one from another back to a microgrid, right? And then you'd have one of these at that station, right? And also a one for law enforcement. You could help out all different kind of medical situations. You could jump on a criminal or break-in or kidnapping like right away. Also, ship safe. With that being said, I'll show you this next video. It kind of ties into it. It is the underground package and mail container. So you're going to have, this is it. This is just another thought process, right? So ShipSafe is going to accept it from the carrier whenever they come and deliver the package. It opens up electronically. It locks magnetically. It's right there where the mailbox is. But my thing is, they're already introducing walking robots, right? And they have the drones already. Like Drone Deck is a good company, and they're doing great things where they're dropping the package off. But why not do it right there at the mailbox location? Let's get away from the front porch. And again, this thing could be utilized to do street lighting. We need to rethink how we're actually doing street lighting when you get into holographic potential down the road. Also, suspended lenses above to redistribute the ambient light down, so you don't need street lights and things like that. So I know this is a lot here, but I'm just trying to show you the different things. But also, so you have a walking robot, then you have a drone. Why can't that drone come down, right? And it would actually transform into a walking robot and perform another task, and then go back, right? Say maybe to return or something, and then it easily would fold up his legs and arms and fly away. Now, anyway, this is, by the way, this is one part of the video. It just shows how we can actually open that with a high molecular weight polyethylene lid. You can actually, it actually works off the law of elasticity and kinetic energy. Okay. All right, so we're gonna go on to the next one, and I'm just trying to get all this in like 30 minutes. This is the deal I was telling you about when it comes down to the auto industry and innovation and stuff like that. And this is the butterfly effect. I'll kind of let you guys watch this for a minute. So this coil rod and everything, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's like the foundation of everything that I kind of invent, and found out that that clip that actually spaces rebar, it spaces walls. It also could be used for the framework in that car. If you look at that 3D design, so you could essentially, with that clip, I just thought it was kind of unique. It looks like the butterfly also. The M&W creates the butterfly and infinity sign. I know it's kind of out there, but these are the kind of thoughts that we need, and to work with engineers and collaborate with people in logistics and all the different industries across the supply chain to actually, you know, make this work. I won't play the rest of this, but if you need it, you can ask for it. Now, here's my thought process on actual innovation. I'll play this for you. I probably don't need to see my mugshot. Anyway. So with innovation, I think that a lot of people think that they can change their logo from red to green or whatever it may be, and think that they're being innovative, or we see that used with sustainability a lot. We need to be able to have measurable ways to determine this. We also, when it comes down to innovation, it's a certain thought process, right? And I have a feeling that we use that term too loosely, right? You have to have a mental dexterity, okay? You have to have a lot of different things, and that's where we need to start looking at when we hire people and whenever we, train people and mentor people, to let them use their creativity and individuality, also include diversity and everything, and then you will find this, and then we can get with the technical people and get very specific. So I'll go on to the next thing. But what's interesting is that if you look at this video right here, so when you talk about transportation, that same framework that we can use for cars, I don't want to give out too much information on it, to how we can build those cars in the future without panels. But it'll be similar to how we could do a design like this, to actually to eliminate asteroids that we can't see in the future. I know it sounds crazy, but just take a look at it. And I've talked to a few people at NASA about it. Play this for a minute. Oh, I didn't realize it's skipping over. I'm sorry about that. So essentially, the reason why we can't spot the asteroids right now is because of the blinding light of the sun. So if we sent, like, we could either use graphene infused, like a polyethylene around that coil rod network, and send those out in a wave pattern. A small in like smaller vehicles, I'd say no bigger than say 5 feet in a wave pattern. Then you go towards the sun, and then on your way back, you'll be able to see the asteroids that we can't currently see, because you won't have the blinding light of the sun. We can also we can also use repurposed nuclear weapons. It's possible, and destroy them before they destroy Earth. So that being said, let me get out of this real quick. Sorry, I've got like 5 screens going. Okay. First of all, are there any questions coming up, and how much time do I have left? Anybody wants to jump in?
The question is not there, but there's a general question for you, Sean,
I
which
guess
was
he's
asked
not
by
here right now.
Elizabeth
Does
last
anybody have
time.
any questions, or does anybody want to chime in? Oh, I was going to mention whenever they were talking about pallets earlier. I sell high molecular weight polyethylene that's 100% recycled. That's thermoformed I use it for a soil retainer, and then it's also the fact that it be thermoformed means you can design it to where it nests inside of each other, which reduces the volume space on shipping containers. But that being said, that type of product comes in a 3/8 inch thick sheet, like 8x4, and it's always on wooden pallets. Why can't we just make that same material, right, as the pallets instead of the wood? That way they can use those scrap pieces and still use that to on the job site, so they don't have to be. I helped start a company called Reliable Void, and we had over 100 truckloads of material, and each truckload had, I don't know, 13, 15 pallets on there, and they couldn't even pay people to come pick them up, right? So I think it's about going back to the material science. Instead of using wood to build these pallets, why don't we just use it out of the same material, if possible, that they're shipping with? That being said, I'd really like to kind of open it up to some questions and things like that. I could definitely present more. But one thing I wanted to mention, and I should have done this in the very beginning. I'm from Texas. I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina right now, but I would say after that recent shooting, I mean, it really hit me. So I want to I want to say how much I really feel for those people out there. Yeah, it's pretty terrible. But what I was going to say is, when it comes down to transportation and eliminating how much transportation is out there, I think that's the biggest thing. When you think about these schools they're building in Texas, they're 500,000 square feet, right? Well, if we redesign our education system a little bit, if we make these school systems smaller, that'll help. But another thing that we could do immediately is we've got to stop designing, like, the engineers get all these awards and everything for designing all these high schools differently. Why wouldn't, if we had a class 4, class 5A high school, whatever size elementary school, why wouldn't they have 3 different models for each, say, class 5 or whatever it is? And then when I say models, they'd have the same floor plan as far as that structure goes. The architects can go crazy and make it different. That way, the police and fire and emergency crews that show up, they would have they would have a lot better layout of these high schools and elementary schools. It's impossible for them to be able to go into these things and know the ins and outs of every one of these schools and to train for it. So that's just something to think about it. So it goes back to design. It's design, creativity, innovation, and collaboration is key across the board. And until we solve those problems and allow our bigger companies to work with smaller companies, and maybe us small companies, and I've started to do this anyway, has become more of a consulting company. I'm not an expert in any field, but I have pretty good ideas in a lot of them. So anyway, how much time do we have left? I can talk all day. I don't care.
Yeah, Sean. Hope my voice is audible. Hello.
Oh,
Is my voice audible?
you there? My volume was down for some reason.
Oh, sorry. Anyone can
Sorry.
confirm my voice is audible?
Could you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you,
Yeah.
Sean.
Could
My
you hear
voice
me
is
before?
audible?
We can
Yeah.
hear all of you.
Okay, great.
Could you hear me
Thank
before
you.
though?
Yeah, we are hearing you, Sean.
Okay, my microphone has a different volume, so
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why.
yeah.
So, Sean, there was one question from a participant, Elizabeth, for the panel, which I can put it across to you. Where do
Yeah.
you see your company going in the next 10 years?
You know, that's a very good question. I'm not really about the company, to be honest with you. Like Camcrete's gonna do well, and you know, I'm a little bit different from most business people, but it's more about solving the problems and you know, and really making a change than the company. You know, and I've put Camcrete at risk, I'll be honest with you, by if you look at ShipSafe Home, how much money I've spent on that patent pending and everything else, and it's got a lot of attention. But I'm more about say consulting and partnering with people, and then also licensing things out. Camcrete will be fine on its own, and I can grow it as I need to. Um, but if I were to say anything, it's not about the revenue for me. I mean, yeah, we all need it, but it's about making a change. And it's not something I'm just saying to, you know, look cool or whatever.
Sure. Thank you, Sean. Thank you. Thank you for your lovely answer and your lovely presentation along with the videos which you showed. It was very impressive.
It may be a little bit different, but again, I mean, I sit in a lot of these, and I think that taking a different approach and being a little bit more not authentic, but I think talking off the cusp and talking about things in a different way, and that's what my company does anyway. So, not to say we need all the other stuff. I mean, I if I were to run accounting in my business, I would have closed down 3 years ago.
Sure, Sean. Thank you, Sean,
Right.
for your lovely presentation.
Thank
Love
you.
to
Thank
stay
you.
connected with you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So we'll quickly move on to our next presenter, Daphne Liu, Head of Digitalization and Innovation from Seva Logistics. She will take you to the journey of Seva, the green journey, the green components. Over to you, Daphne.
Thank you. So first, let me present my screen first.
Yes.
And thank you for the opportunity. Okay, let
Always
me
helping
know.
to hear from the thought leaders like you, Daphne. I think
Okay, let me
eager to
start
learn
it.
from you.
Yeah, thank you. Let me. Okay,
Yes.
first, can you see my screen?
Yes. We can see you.
Okay.
We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, so that's good. So I'm gonna start it. Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Daphne Liu. I'm the head of AI and ML.
Daphne, we lost you. Your voice is not coming. Can you mute and unmute yourself again? No.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh,
No, it is okay.
okay.
Yeah.
So now, okay, let's start over again. Sorry. Okay. Can you hear me clear now before I continue?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Daphne Liu. I'm the head of machine learning and AI with the Seva Logistics. We own an application called Matrix. Basically, this is a ground. It's for ground application for smart supply chain. So today I'm going to present one of our machine learning solution for CO2 consumption for our client. So our client include like in Europe and US.
Definitely
And
again lost you. Yeah, no, it is
lost
not.
it,
Yeah,
it
no, it
lost
is okay.
again.
No, it is
It's,
okay. Yeah.
it's okay. Okay. So include Rolls-Royce, Amazon, Nike. Like we own this big client. So because it
Sorry, definitely we lost you again.
again.
Yeah, now it is okay. Don't know what is happening. Means it's coming and then
Okay,
again it is.
yeah, I'm gonna hold my. You see my earpiece. Is that okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to show the CO2 component for a client. So today you're gonna see, our
Sorry, definitely we lost you again. Sorry. I know I'm
lost
disturbing
it.
you. Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
No. 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 No, we can't hear you. No.
Hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to reconnect my microphone. You can see my earpiece. Okay. So I'm gonna start. The okay.
Yeah.
So about 3 years ago, okay, so we are looking for opportunity to do some budget for our smart supply chain. So whatever you see here is the 3 years ago. I started this team, and we are building, machine learning module. So this is the slide I used to communicate with our leaders. So you can see when I plan that, that's my roadmap for machine learning in logistics. So this is how I plan it. In machine learning, you have a supervised learning and unsupervised learning. So supervised learning, consider is a long-term solution. And you can see how I, categorize it. So on the left-hand side, you see all the regression model I propose, and the classification model I propose, and of course for the long term on the right-hand side. So at that time, after I communicate this with my leadership, we decide, to use, because you don't want to go to something.
We lost you definitely once again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So can I continue?
Yes. Oh, it's coming. Yes.
Can I continue?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So then we pick. You can see this is all we can do, in logistic. And then I say, okay, let's start.
Definitely lost you again, I think.
The speaker?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. You're gonna see my hand holding this thing right now. I don't
Okay,
want to
sure.
lose you guys.
Please do that.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do that. Okay. So now you see from the last slide, come to this.
We again lost.
So
Yeah, now it is okay. Yeah. It's coming
now
and
it's okay.
again going. Yeah, yeah, it's okay.
It's so weird today. It never
I know.
happened. So sorry, but you can see this is the, I show them how do we get there to implement this. So you can see I categorize what kind of machine learning algorithm we can use, based on the solution. Okay, so I shared this slide with you today. And then after that, what will be our architecture when you do a machine learning in an enterprise level solution? Like today, you will have a lot of company, they have a data scientist, but to an enterprise level, that is not a machine learning product, because you have to make a production deliverable and how to run it and reliable, has a security, lots of things involved. So this is the first thing, I use this to communicate with our team,
Daphne, I cannot hear you. Yeah.
You cannot hear me again? Can you
No.
hear me?
Yes, no.
Okay. So now, the data engineering part. So you can see this is the part we Elasticsearch. That's what we use for our data lake. And we use a Python, as our development tool for our machine learning. And for algorithm calculation, data engineering, we use Sparse SQL. So you can see that. Then of course, you have a lot of coding, data engineering work. And then in the end, we have our feature selection. This is like how we're going to put it in our algorithm or our model. Then once you have that, the next one is your auto machine learning, your platform. And the tool we use is a tool, it's a company called Data IQ. This company is a sponsor. Pick a Data IQ to serve our enterprise level machine learning package deployment. So as you can see, that's the framework environment. You need to build that, your QA environment and your production environment. And how do you deploy them? There's a two part. One is we write your forecast result or machine learning result to your SQL Server or PostgreSQL. That's what we pick. Okay. And once you put your forecast result over there, you can use the visualization tool like a Tableau, Quick, Grafana to showcase your forecast result to our client. Today, I will showcase two dashboards we use to communicate our machine learning model, to our client. And the other important
Sorry, we lost you, Daphne, again. Yeah.
Okay. Is that okay? Yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
pushing okay, so I'm moving to the next slide.
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm breaking up the detail, like how did you do it? Of course, you have a transactional.
Not able to listen to you, Daphne, again.
Okay, what's wrong with my? Okay, can you hear me? I'm
Yes.
so sorry. Okay,
Yes.
because it's too hard. I cannot change my,
Hmm.
microphone now.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay, so you can see this is our machine learning ecosystem, and it's all orchestra. forecast is feeding back to your model, and going back. It's a circle and circle. And usually a solution is a asset.
Sorry, your
Yeah,
voice is not coming definitely.
not coming. Okay. Okay. Can you hear
Yes,
me now?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. So now you can see the API. You can use the uh base. So save us development time. Also, this data IQ save a lot of Python development time for machine learning module. So, I mean, I think it's a great application. They didn't pay me anything, but if you are consider setting a machine learning, platform in your organization, you can consider and take a look at this product. So now I'm going to the next slide. Okay, and that's another thing. Usually when you do this, now what is your backup? Okay, how do you handle, like I say, you have 20 data scientists. If they're going to use your platform doing their data science tool, how do you, how you say, support them enough resource and how to do that? So you can see in this chart, kind of tell you how do we replicate our data between data centers in this form, and also how do we solve our resource, especially when you run the algorithm. We spin up a sparse SQL cluster for our data scientists, analysis, and include all our module run over there. And here, I remember when we set it up, I communicated with the security team.
We lost you definitely once again. Yeah.
Once again, so sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So here I just mentioned the jump server for security. I know lots of company has a lot of data scientists. Data scientists has to communicate with our jump server, not their laptop, to develop their solution. Okay, so just want to share this with you. Okay, and then once we have all that, we pick up our solution. We know how's our development. We call it the development environment setup. So now we talk about, how do we going to implement this supply chain intelligence as a service? Like today, we heard lots of SaaS. Okay, so to us, we can call it supply chain AAS or machine learning AAS. So are we going to
Definitely
can you hear
lost
me?
you once. Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear me now clearly?
Yes, yes.
Okay, sorry. So CO2, then we pick up the CO2 as our first machine learning module to implement. So then this is the components we decide. We're going to put it in this machine learning solution, and this is our 3 module. One, we call it CO2 aware, okay? And the next one is called CO2 intelligent. And the very last one is called CO2 discovery. 3 components. So this is our approach. First, we want to reduce our CO2. So you can see, this is our approach. How do we reduce it? And for air ground, how do we reduce it? And air only, this is all our approach. I don't I don't have a time, to discuss the detail today. So, but basically, this is how we're going to reduce the CO2. Okay, so if they want to go to air, right? So we will see. Okay, instead of ship 3 times a week, can you ship 1 time a week?
We lost you, Daphne. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
good? Yeah. So we use the trip consolidation algorithm. Okay. So it will be based on origin and destination, and we try to with
Not able to
cargo.
listen. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So then also you have to pick we call it belly freight. So with a belly freight, then we introduce the CO more green. So they will be in our priority if we pick up the airline to do our shipment. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so later I will show you there's a 2 dashboard after our solution. Like I say, one is the historical, and you will see the CO2 emission index, and you will also see how do we provide opportunity to our client to consolidate trip. Okay, so this is one of the dashboard. I have a live one I will show you.
Definitely not able to listen. Can you just repeat again?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so you can see in this slide, this is a live dashboard. We forecast their air and their ground CO2 emission. Emission, and then we have a United States and Europe, like the forecast for the CO2 consumption. And we also has a calculate, like if you go through the ocean, how much you can save. You can see the saving there. And if you go through from truck to the rail like a train, how much you can save, for you. So this I call your CO2 intelligence. And this is a consolidation dashboard. I will go live later to show in the presentation. So I'm going to move up to the next slide. Okay. So after that, we want to do more. So this is like my future plan. I want to offer my client a city pair based shipment CO2 discovery panel. In other words, it's a panel they can play around, like how do they ship? If I go by ground or I go by air, how much comparison, how much I can save? It's a live, so I call it a discovery panel. And I want to have an air, ocean, port, and route forecast. Right now, I don't have the fully forecast based on the air and ocean port only, because right now I'm city pair. So I was hoping I can bring this part in. Okay. And in other words, this is the other thing we are working on now. You can see is the route wither. We can suggest how do you combine your between different data sources and our to convince the operations changes. It's hard, and data quality is the most challenging. So I in logistic in this industry, if we want to do it, because our data quality is not as good as other industries, so usually your majority, your development time will be in data quality. Okay, so now I'm going to show you my live dashboard right now. So very quickly, okay, do I still have time?
Yes.
Okay, I do. Okay. So this is a live dashboard. Okay. So this basically we have a two dashboard, like I say, from our model. This is from historical to see what you are so far. It's a historical data. Now it's happened already. We can just tell you, what kind of opportunity you missed. You didn't do it, and maybe you can do better. And the other one, you can see this.
We just lost you, Daphne.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this second dashboard you see here, all the data you see presented in this dashboard is all from our forecast model. In other words, this data does not exist until it run our model. Okay, so let's go through the first one. No, the first one is based on once we ship it. Okay, so far, how do we do for you? Okay, so for example, this client, you can see they have a goal this year to hit, like they want to reduce. Okay, they don't want to over this CO2 consumption. So here you can see their air is a little bit over now, so they can do some adjustment, maybe reduce more air shipment to ocean. Okay, and it also show you, because this client, they have a North America and Europe, so also show you if you want to reduce your CO2 consumption, go to those red, like for example, this is Texas, this is California, lots of the CO2 consumption when they do the shipment go over there. So maybe go over there looking for opportunity to optimize the route, and reduce the truck, like the truck frequency, that kind of stuff. And also, okay, this is the index and forecast their future, their air and ground, and look like this one is North America, look like it's going down. You can see that. So that's a good sign. Okay. And here you can see, this is, I call it opportunity. So very quick, this is your, you see this big line, it's your opportunity. It's where your supplier, like I have this one, I have a 94 trip count. You can go in there, okay, and do the consolidation. And if I click on it, you will see this, I'm going to do it, so when you click on it, it show you all the detail. Show you our detail. Okay, I'm going to cancel it because I don't want to show you the data. I'm not supposed to do that, but you can see, so they can their trip and looking for consolidation. And you can see this is all your supplier, their opportunity, how much, this is your top 10. So you can work on how to reduce, from that. Basically, we call it, we're looking for consolidation opportunity. Don't go it, trip by, so many trip, merge them, consolidate them together. So this is the historical. We still have a lot of stuff, but I want to move on to this one. So once we have a historical data, we are training
We lost you, Daphne. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so in other words, when you got an order stage, you only have a CT pair. You don't know anything else, like which airport, what kind of route, and the ground, which hub or something. They don't know nothing about that. But based on our training data, you can run that. Okay, you can run that, and with our forecast, our machine learning, it will tell you, say, okay, possible this order, this is your ORD mean this is the airport. So this one will show you after our
Just lost you, Daphne.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
So you have to pretend the data, like today we are April 26th. So you can see this is your future. View it immediately. Okay, in Chicago. Okay, I have a 3 shipment coming in. And this one is going to this place. It's called a city called Carroll Street, Illinois. You have 2 of them. So you can see this green. You see this green? They are the same destination. So give them an opportunity to, like this one is Memphis. This one's Memphis. So you can see it's like give them opportunity. And you can see the opportunity here. But where are they from? This one is from China. This one from the shipment.
Not able to listen. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, can you see that? So all the algorithm you discuss with them. Like okay, so this one mean every week you only go one, consolidate as much.
Definitely
We
not
pick
able to listen. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. So this is our first model. We pick the easiest one, and we are going to have a more complex any question, I am more than happy to answer.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I think there was a comment from Sean. Apart from that, there was no question.
Okay.
But there was one from Elizabeth. I know that where do you see your company going in the next 10 years? She asked in the panel. So that is one question which is there. So what do you, from your perspective, what do you see, Daphne? Means what is the company going to do? Not next 10 years, maybe it's a long time, maybe in the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm. Next 5 year, like I say, okay, hold on. I think this screen is, can I not sharing my screen? You already turned it off? Stop sharing, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Stop
that's good.
sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that first. Okay, so you see, I have the whole
Sure.
earphone today. I don't know what's going on with it. I'm sorry. Okay.
No issues.
So we do have a 5 year plan and 10 year plan. Okay, we do want to have a CBA. Have we call it smart supply chain. Even today, we have the first step, right? We just do the CO2 is still ongoing, and I say this is the easy. Now easy. I mean, it's look like it's achievable. We can deliver it. We do have things planning, and for CO2, because our company has a big, how you say, ambition of this. I think we are almost we are implement. We have our own ocean line, and we are going to have our own airline. We just bought by CMA CGM. So in other words, our how you say, our cargo flight or our air, cargo will be CO2 friendly. Like it will all, like I say, commit to that. So that's part of it. And secondly, we want to improve our data because right now the data collection and because in logistics you use a different applications, so many of them. When you need them together, it's really hard, the data quality. So we know we need to keep improve it. So our model, model will keep improve. And we are invest more. You probably see that data IQ I showed you. We are like right at the limit. So we need to, increase investment on that and educate it because the whole SIVA, like all our operation, all the people here need to be believe in it and they train. There's a lot of training here to change, the way the operation. It still have a lot to do, and it's like we only have the first step, but we are glad we already have the first solution delivered. We have all, like I say, the enterprise level set up, ready for it, so that's where we are right now, but hopefully, next year we'll have more for you.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Daphne. Thank you for your presentation, and it was lovely interacting with you. Love to stay connected in the future as well.
I know. Like I said, I need to prepare a better, microphone next time. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Sure. No, your voice was coming on and off, but yeah, we saw what you were trying to say, so that was more important.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of the speaking panel, and we'll quickly move on to our last presenter for the day. Jeffrey is the partner in Chicago Consulting. His topic is fueling innovation in the supply chain. So over to you, Jeffrey.
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen, if you don't mind.
Yep. Sure.
Yes. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, absolutely. Perfect. Thank you.
Wonderful. My name is Jeff Haushalter. I'm with a company called Chicago Consulting. We are a consulting company that helps manufacturers, distributors, and retailers do two things. First, decrease cost, and second, improve service. And usually by service, we mean the time it takes from a delivery to get from a plant or a warehouse to a customer, and in some cases from that customer back again to the plant or warehouse. So we really view our lives in those two dimensions, cost and service. So today we're going to talk about four things. One is kind of the current state, and we're going to really be talking a little bit about truckload transportation and why that is important. Second, we're going to talk about problems that need solving. We're going to present some solutions, and then we're also going to talk about some impediments. And by impediments, we mean things that may slow down the adoption or the unveiling of this technology. Some of this technology is maybe difficult, or it's on the come. So we'll get into that in a couple slides. So to start out with, trucking is an $800 billion industry in the United States. There's about 4 million Class 8 trucks. Those would be the big semis like you see here on the highway operating. There's about 3.4 million truck drivers employed to drive those trucks. There's even more truck drivers that may drive other types of trucks, things like vans and straight trucks. But we're going to focus a little bit on just the kind of trucks that you would see on the highway. They travel 300 billion miles. That's a lot of miles to think about. If we think about how many gallons of fuel these trucks consume, almost 45 billion gallons of fuel, 36 billion gallons of diesel, 9 billion gallons of gasoline. So when we think about, this whole impact of the trucking industry, it hauls about 70% of the freight in the U.S., and that's almost 12 billion tons. It's really hard to put your mind around billions of tons or billions of gallons, but trucks drive the economy. They are a vital and an integral part of everything we do. So we want to talk a little bit about cost drivers. If we think of a truck now and then, if we just look back 1 year, we have a couple cost components of a semi-truck. The first, if you can follow my mouse here, is fuel. Then wages and benefits, buying and purchasing or leasing that truck, maintenance and tires, and then there's a whole category of other things, things like tolls and incidentals that impact a driver's profitability. If we add all these up, last year, the cost per mile was about $1.74. Some carriers higher, some carriers lower, some modes higher, but the point being, if we jump to 2022, there's been some dramatic changes in the industry. First, fuel went from 20% of the total cost to 38% of the total cost. A lot of the other components now are more diminished just because fuel increased so dramatically. So if we look at this and add these up, we're seeing kind of a 32% increase year over year in transportation costs. Now, fuel and driver costs make up almost 75% of the total cost. And there's a lot of, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but there's a lot of additional inflation that is expected. So these numbers are probably not going to get better going forward and are probably going to degrade and get worse. So, one of the things we want to talk about is then what is the problem that needs to be solved? We as a consulting company, we talked a little bit about this cost and service side, but what are the problems that we see? This is a chart of diesel pricing over the last year. You can see that the diesel prices have increased 140%. In some cases, they're $7. A driver may fill up his truck and it's $1,000 bill. I think we've all seen our pain at the pump in terms of gasoline and what's occurring to us as regular drivers on the road. There's congestion. There's a study that's put out by a company called INRIX that tries to estimate which cities are most congested. And basically it says 36 hours a year is the amount of time that Americans waste in traffic. I happen to live in Chicago. We're actually in the 90s in terms of if you're a routine commuter, routine driver, you're sitting in a car 12 days of your life. So it's a really kind of a bummer thing to think about, there's also a lot of other countries where congestion is even worse than in the United States. Safety is always an issue with transportation, and we always hear about truck accidents and the impact and the disruption that they can cause. That's always something that's forefront in terms of people's minds. And as litigation gets more and more, those costs or the cost of an accident gets much more expensive. For those of you who aren't too familiar with logistics, right now there's a driver shortage, and there's a concept called hours of service, which limits the amount of time a driver can spend on the road. So these two in tandem have really made it, created what we would consider a driver shortage or a lack of available drivers. And the last thing that we want to focus on, and it kind of ties to congestion, is the concept of sustainability. And just like we heard from Daphne earlier, there is a real emphasis at the corporate level on sustainability. It's not just greenwashing. It really is something that companies are viewing as part of their, I'll call it their core ethics. And it's absolutely something that we want to support. So let's focus on maybe the key problems that are worth solving. So when we think about our problems, we think in two dimensions, as we said earlier, or I said earlier. We try and reduce cost, and we try and improve service. So if we think back to the problems that we talked about, there's a couple things that are influencing and impacting cost. One is the cost of the person who's driving a truck. They're expensive, they're hard to train, and especially retain, and they can make mistakes. Next is fuel. I mean, we've seen these increases in fossil fuels. There's the concept of range, refueling time, and infrastructure, especially as we talk to electric vehicles. Safety, we talked about that a little bit. Congestion. There's a concept of total cost of ownership. So if I drive a truck, what is my bill 5 years out? What's my annual cost per year? Last year, most trucks on the road cost about $200,000 to run. So if you're in the business of driving a truck, you're going to incur costs per year around $200,000. That means that if you want to make some money in that business, you have to be able to bill to cover those costs. And lastly, one way to reduce cost is to focus on a concept called load factors. And that is, if you have a truck that is driving with almost no freight, it's largely empty, that freight is borne by, or the cost of that truck is borne by all that, just that little pallet of freight. If you fill the truck up, or you have available space and can fill that cost of the truck is then spread out over many more pounds or many more products. So we always want to strive for high load factors. We want our trucks to be full. And as we get into some of the opportunities, managing or using AI to help match up loads and fill trucks better is absolutely an opportunity. On the service side, there's a couple things that are emerging. The first is time-definite deliveries. And in the industry, it used to be that you would find out when a company shipped a product to you. They would say it left our dock at this time, or this is when we put it into the system. This is when it left. But world-class companies have really shifted to what we would consider time-definite deliveries, which is you're going to get it on this time, as opposed to passing the buck, so to say, to the carrier, who is then responsible for making sure that that appointment or that delivery time is kept. The second trend we see is faster deliveries. Everything and everyone would like things faster. I think Amazon proved that through the pandemic and before, but the idea of being able to get something same hour, same day is pretty amazing. And they've kind of set the bar and the expectation for that faster delivery. It doesn't matter whether you're ordering furniture or any sort of consumer good, people are looking to the Amazon experience and expecting that faster delivery time. And lastly, one of the problems that's out there is that final mile. So it's not necessarily a physical mile, but it's that distribution center or that distribution point getting to you, the customer. And that is a very expensive and difficult mile to travel. You're typically in a more city environment, and you are just faced with a lot of difficulties regarding scheduling, drop-offs, congestion, and that final mile is just a real expensive leg of the overall transportation journey. So we really want to focus on these, and we want to identify solutions, maybe in the AI space, maybe in the electric vehicle space, maybe in the supply chain space, that would allow you to either decrease this cost that we need to manage or improve that service. So we're going to present a couple solutions. These aren't all the solutions. We don't have time for that, but I wanted to talk about a couple things that we think are trending. And we heard it a little bit earlier from one of the speakers, but the marketplace, there's a lot of innovation that is new. There's a lot of innovation that is older, but hasn't necessarily been deployed to the marketplace. So you could have a great solution, and it could be a solution that's 10 years old, but if no one really adopted it or put it into practice, it's really not a solution that has gained a lot of traction. I think with the pandemic, with the rising prices, we're really seeing companies realize that they have to move to from where they were, maybe being more of a dinosaur, to adopting more of a smoother, faster, low-cost platform to deliver material to customers. So we're going to talk a little bit about automation. And one of the things that is hot right now is the idea of vehicles that can self-drive. And there's a spectrum on that. And if we think about that spectrum, there's two things. One is there's the dependence on artificial intelligence. Right now, if you're just a regular driver, if you hop in a 1950 Chevy, that car has absolutely no AI at all. It is a completely mechanical vehicle, and there's no assistance whatsoever. We also have another spectrum here, which is the maturity. And, if we think back to that older car that everything is completely manual, there's a spectrum of, on the other end is something that's going to be completely automated. So a level 0 on the automation scale basically says the driver is in full responsibility of the vehicle and has absolutely no assistance. So everything that the driver does is their responsibility. There's no handoff, and they're completely responsible for their behavior on the road. As we move up, we have things like cruise control and start-stop and braking, automatic braking. So these are things that typically will be done that will help the driver, but they're typically maybe helping only one driving task. So if you're doing cruise control, you're not doing braking. But at some point, the system may discover that you're going too fast and maybe kick in and all of a sudden activate the braking. The third or the second step up from that is where the driver is really monitoring the system, and the system can provide several tasks. So this is kind of like the Tesla autopilot. The driver is supposed to be active and engaged, but the system is doing more higher value added tasks. And there's absolutely a significant amount of AI that's going behind the scenes to make sure that you're not flying off the road. We're going to now jump into kind of maybe what I'm going to call the future. And this 3, 4, and 5 is really where people are are getting excited. 3 is kind of like 2, but a little bit more. And what it's saying is that you're going to have a driver in the vehicle. They have to be ready to take control, but they can be disengaged. They don't necessarily have to pay full attention. And if they were on a defined route or a closed route, the system could navigate that relatively well, and the driver probably wouldn't have to have any assistance or have to take control at all. Stepping up to 4, this is where the system really could take over, but the driver has the option to intervene if they want. It might be where it's almost like the autopilot system of a plane. It's used for part of the trip, but the landing and takeoff is something where the pilot takes over. There are some autopilot systems where a plane could land itself, but many times the pilots decide to do that as a preference. And what we would consider would be the grail, or what people are really excited about, is this level 5. And this is the idea of there's no driver needed. Your trip or your vehicle is completely routed and navigates itself, and there's no need for a driver. So we have this spectrum from kind of 0 to 5. Right now, we're kind of hovering between the 2s and the 3s. There's a lot of interest in this 4s and 5s, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. So one of the things that's really interesting is if we get to that level 5, there's a lot of parts of a tractor or a trailer that might want to be redesigned because you don't have a human to deal with anymore in that vehicle. So when you think about the length of a semi and its space, it's been sized to basically accommodate a human driving that vehicle. You take the human out and you can potentially put more payload into that vehicle, more pallets, more space, and potentially more weight. There's the concept of if you don't have a person to protect, you don't necessarily need the same crumple zone that you would if you have a human occupant. Again, this leads to a real redesign of what you might think a truck or trailer would look like. There might be more exposed areas. Again, one of the reasons you have a roof is so you don't get wet. If you don't need a roof, you might have a more exposed section of your vehicle that maybe reduces cost or reduces weight. Absolutely, we would see things like the elimination of the sleeper unit and all the creature comforts, things like air conditioning, things like heating. Those are not needed in a vehicle that doesn't need or accommodate people. We talked a little bit about payload, but there's more space potentially for a cube holding product. And potentially, if it's an electric vehicle, maybe more space to hold batteries and battery capacity, which would exceed or expand the range of that vehicle. So, we want to stretch the audience kind of to think outside the box where, as we get into this level 5 or level 4, things are going to be different, and trucks are going to look different. Trucks are going to behave differently. And those are things that we have to actually absolutely plan for and redesign too. We think the biggest opportunity in, I would call it the AI space with vehicles, is the concept of platooning. And to give you a visual of that, right now, this would be trucks that are following very closely to each other. At a level 3, there would be a driver in every truck, but there would be a kind of a collision avoidance radar system where these trucks would be traveling very close to each other under kind of a cruise control system. And the idea with that is that there would be less drag on the vehicle and they would get better fuel economy. So they'd basically be drafting off each other, but they'd be drafting at a level that would be viewed as unsafe if you didn't have the AI support behind you. If we move to a level 4, one of the concepts that is out there is the idea of you only have a driver in the front cab, and the units behind it are following, but they're basically following the lead of the driver and the driver's intuition. We see this as absolutely something that is probably going to be the dominant method, because if there's any sort of breakdown or mechanical, you have a person who's on the spot who can diagnose and troubleshoot. If you don't have a person and it's all electronic, if something happens, most likely these trucks will stop. And the question is, now what? I mean, you have cargo in there that's supposed to go to a customer at a certain time. So, the idea of just letting trucks sit on the side of the road is something that is not necessarily going to fly. And if we get to a level 5, we would have the convoy. And it would be the same convoy, except there would be no drivers at all. It would be completely electric. Oh, sorry, not completely electric. It would be completely autonomous. And these trucks would probably travel close to each other, but they don't have to. They would just go on their route in the best way possible. So we can kind of see a progression here from the top method, which still has 4 drivers. So you really don't have a lot of savings in terms of labor, to the level 4, where all of a sudden you went from 4 drivers down to 1 driver. And then level 5, you go from 1 driver to 0 drivers. So, we really see the biggest bang here is this level 4 in terms of opportunity, because you're going from 4 down to 1, as opposed to going from 1 down to 0. If we were to think about some extensions of this, one might be the idea of electrifying the first truck, which would be driven by a human or guided by a human and AI. And that would be a power unit plus a generator, and there would be a tethering, so the vehicles behind it would be electric. So this is similar to the gas-electric hybrid that you'd see in a passenger vehicle, but the advantage of that would be decreased emissions and better fuel economy. As we kind of progress, we could see an electric vehicle only model that the space that was used for a driver and the space that was used to sleep a driver, could be consumed by batteries. And there might even be batteries positioned in the bottom of the chassis, that are used to extend the range. So, we really do see some real innovations that will emerge. There's a lot of impediments, though, that will prevent these from showing up tomorrow morning. There's some other AI impacts that we'd like to talk about just briefly. One of the concepts is I talked a little bit about congestion. And many cities, if I just take Chicago, for example, Chicago has what's called a peak hour congestion problem, meaning from about 7 until 9 in the morning and from about 3:30 till about 6:30, they have really, everyone wants to drive. Everyone wants to go to work. If you avoid those times, you don't have congestion. The roads that are busy have capacity, and you can get most places relatively fast. So one of the things that AI can bring in the future is this concept, the discovery of and the ability to make these off-hour deliveries to minimize the impact of congestion. The second is predictive traffic monitoring. So this is something that would basically reroute you if it looks like you're going to be entering a congested zone. You might go around a city as opposed to through it. This is similar to what Google's doing. If anyone uses Google Maps or Waze, but it's been something that would be rolled out to truck drivers as opposed to regular automobiles. And truck drivers tend to travel on a predictable route right now, as opposed to deviating, because they're not sure all of a sudden if they get routed off the expressway, are they going to get into a situation where they're stuck, they hit a turnabout or they hit an area of the where it's difficult for them to navigate. Proactive communication. So if a shipment's going to be late, letting customers know. Exception-based communication. So don't let the customers know if everything's going okay. Just let them know if there's a problem. Safety, obviously, is something that AI can definitely help with a lot of the advanced systems that would be put into these electric or autonomous vehicles. Matching loads and drivers, route optimization, and load sensing. And by load sensing, what we mean is if you have a vehicle that is empty, there would be a trigger and there would be an opportunity for you to pick up freight from someone who might be traveling to the same location. So the idea is that you could have a fuller truck and spread those costs out. And last is resilience. And resilience is really something that is happening in the supply chain. We heard a little bit about it from Daphne in terms of, the ability to potentially change modes, but, go from air to ocean, go from ocean to something else. Those are things that add flexibility to the supply chain. They may add costs, but they definitely add flexibility. And as cities shut down from COVID, as natural disasters occur, that resilience is absolutely something that's needed. So we're going to talk a little bit about the benefits here. And we have, in terms of cost, the driver cost, fuel cost, safety cost, congestion cost, total cost of ownership, and we have some service benefits that we'd like to focus on. So if we think of an electric vehicle, right now, there's still whether you have electric or gas, you still need a driver. So that's a wash. There's really no savings there. What we would say with an electric vehicle is you are going to save on fuel, and you may save on total cost of ownership. Really depends on what you buy and how you buy it, how you drive it. If we think about AI, AI has absolutely the ability to reduce all the costs we talked about and improve all the service aspects that we talk about. And if we think about that breaking down into autonomous vehicles, you can see really when we get to the level 4 and 5 is really when we see a lot of those benefits. So levels 1, 2, and 3 get us some benefit, but not necessarily the benefits we'd like to see and the benefits that are really going to move the needle. So we're going to talk a little bit about some impediments, and I don't want to be a pessimist, but this is an emerging market. I mean, AI and transportation innovation is something that has a great opportunity, but it also requires a lot of people in the process for that to happen. So we're going to talk a little bit about some impediments to that adoption, and the first is really infrastructure. And for autonomous vehicles to really succeed, they do great in a controlled environment. So a dedicated lane, the ability to have a breakdown exit, charging and maintenance stations along the way. So, that infrastructure right now doesn't exist, but it will be built. And the sooner it is built, it will, obviously speed adoption. If we have a controlled environment where trucks are separate from regular vehicles, it absolutely gives you the ability to avoid that interaction between a person driving a car and this AI driving of a car. And a person can do all sorts of crazy things in a car. So it's very difficult to plan for all the things that a person could do. And the last thing on the infrastructure is standardization. And, we hope as AI progresses that standards do emerge and people are adherent to standards as opposed to more proprietary solutions. Governance, this is really a big impediment right now. There's a debate whether or not this autonomous vehicle or these autonomous vehicles should be regulated at the state level or the federal level. So if each state has its own standards about what a autonomous vehicle has to do or not do, it's going to create a very difficult marketplace to navigate or to ship material through. There's settling rules of the roads, and there's a concept of ethics, which really means if I'm driving a car and there's an autonomous vehicle coming at me, who's supposed to move? Who's in the right? If I'm in a self-driving car and it's just me and there's a school bus with a bunch of little kids, there's more kids than me, so who gets driven off the bridge? So there's a lot of ethics questions that are being sorted out in terms of what the ethics are. And there's a lot of people who express some concern about riding in an autonomous vehicle without being aware of what those ethics are, or the published ethics. Technology, we obviously want solutions that are reliable and resilient. So we don't want vehicles that are breaking down, or if GPS all of a sudden has a blackout, that these trucks can't get to their final destination. There's a pace of innovation that we need to understand. Is the technology going to be obsolete in a year or two, or is it something that if I buy now, I'm not necessarily going to be penalized for being an early adopter? There's the success of first movers, and there's the ability to be a fast follower, which, in transportation, really, there are some pioneers and there's some people that are pushing the envelope, but there's a lot of people who are just waiting for this to pan out and get more miles on the road. So you could have a great solution, but until you've driven, millions and millions of miles without an incident, people may not feel so comfortable with that technology. Continuing, we talked a little bit about this in the last page, but the idea of proprietary versus open solutions. Safety and security. By that, we mean physical security or physical safety, so that these vehicles have features that protect the physical nature of it. But there's also the cyber side of an AI-driven vehicle in terms of, can it be hacked? Can it do something that you don't want? Can someone open up the vehicle or send it to a location? What permissions are out there, and how are those vehicles going to be secure? We see a potential workforce backlash with AI and autonomous vehicles. There's the potential, we talk about the 4 driver down to 1. That's potentially significant job displacement. And in trucking, there's a significant organized labor component, which we would think would be negotiated. Lastly, there's the economics and the ROI. I mean, these solutions have to make sense from a dollar perspective and a return on investment. So, we do have rising fuel and driver pay issues, but we really want to understand, is this going to make sense from a financial perspective? So we have a couple predictions here regarding self-driving trucks. We think they'll initially be part of a single driver-led caravan. So there'll be a driver at the front, followed by autonomous vehicles. They'll be used on long-haul highways in dedicated lanes separate from passenger vehicles. They'll probably be resisted by labor as eliminating jobs. You'll still need people to perform tasks like repairing flats and managing emergencies. There's going to be significant infrastructure investments needed to really make people feel comfortable that this is a solution that can be adopted. And there's the governance, ethics, and cyber concerns to be ironed out. Regarding electric vehicles, we do absolutely see them gaining share, especially in the same day out and back routes. They will benefit greatly from the elimination of a driver, which really allows the complete redesign of the vehicle to maybe add payload and range. And with that, that's really all we had. So I can open it up to questions.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for the lovely presentation and giving a thought process to the automation in transportation. It was a lovely presentation. I thoroughly enjoyed it listening to that. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Just wait for a few seconds. In case of any question, guys, you can type in the Q&A section. We'll try to get answered by Jeff. In the meanwhile, let me just close the conversation. Thank you, Jeff. If there are no questions, thanks a lot, and we'll stay connected, Jeff, in the near future as well.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to wrap up, guys, we would like to thank our technology partner, Digit 7. They have a great innovation lab of 15,000 square feet in Richardson, Texas, and any one of you who are dropping by can always go to the office and have a look to feel that. To understand more in depth, connect with them, and to suggest any aspect, all of you can go through their website, that is digit7.io, and closely liaison with them. Also, we would like to thank our community partner speakers and attendees who came together for enriching knowledge through this forum. We had great set of speakers since morning who came together to share thoughts. Just for your information, today's event was broadcasted in the YouTube and Facebook page of our company. So all of you can go to that and see the recording anytime. Please log on to our website and like the social media channels. We'll be sharing lots of knowledge sharing topics, details, announcement of next events, and much more, which will help you register and attend the same. There are lots more in store for subsequent months as well, with focus on how technology is driving digital era, retail industry, aviation, and much more. So request all of you to keep connected with us and enjoy the learning. Thanks, and do take care of yourself. Have a lovely day and weekend ahead, guys. Bye.